doors?
Yes, sir. I got it.
You got it?
You have
Do
one
I have
seat right
anybody
here.
for the public hearing?
Okay. I would ask that you make sure that your phone is cut off, please. I mean, we've got a full house, and everybody that's in here is important. Everything you say is important. This is being live streamed. So I would ask you, please, please, do not talk to the person next to you while we have speakers up here so that everybody can hear what's being said. One person is just as important as the next. So try to keep, if you get to the point where you've got to say something to your next door neighbor, you might need to just step to the back somewhere. At this time, I'm going to ask Charles Latham. Charles is a minister on the south side of the river. He's going to give our invocation tonight. Charles.
Our gracious Heavenly Father, Lord, we've come here and gathered for the business of the people of this land, Lord. We are ever mindful that in the past, as nations have risen, as nations have fallen, that those who serve you have always come humbly, petitioned before you for wisdom, for understanding, for grace, for mercy. Lord, those who have concerns to bring before this board tonight are seeking those self-same things. And Father, those whom the people have entrusted with the care of this commission are seeking those self-same things. Lord, we pray that as we participate in the blessing of a democratic government, that the people's voices would be heard, that those who are in responsible positions to hear would hear. Lord, we ask that there would be favor among all of those present. We pray that there would be no untimely disruptions. Lord, we ask that there would be resolutions for situations, for problems, Father, for things that need to be brought under consideration. And we pray that as we do so, Lord, we would be careful to remember that you are the final arbiter, and God, that we should always wait before you and never judge a matter until we have seen its final outworking, Lord. And we pray this in the name of your Son, Jesus Christ, our Lord and our Savior. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Charles.
God bless you.
At this time, we'll call the March Board of Commissioners meeting to order. I'm going to ask that you stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, and that'll be led by Commissioner Dunn.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time, I'll ask if any of the commissioners have a conflict of interest that needs to be disclosed.
I have an ethics issue. I want to ask the chairman, have you had any meetings with people of the county about county business that should be appropriately put before the board? And have you directed any staff member within the last month to carry on any operations of the county in any particular direction?
No, I have not.
Okay.
Anyone else? Okay, we're down to the approval of the agenda. I'll entertain. Got a motion to approve.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I'd like to ask that you remove number 2 under O. The gentleman that applied for that position is not qualified under our county policy. and he doesn't live in the right place.
Mr. Chairman, since this is an agenda issue, I'd like to address that as part of the agenda when that item comes up. I don't have a problem with the withdrawal, but I want to address the problem.
Oh, okay. All right. We got a motion and we got a second.
Second.
All those in favor, raise your right hand. Thank you. We're down to the items of presentation. Our Human Resource Director is not here, Dolores, and so and the two employees are not here that we're recognizing. The first one is in the Water Department. That's Stephen Cutler for 5 years. And in the Tax Administration, that's Brittany Bass. That also is for 5 years. So I ask that you support by giving these two employees a round of applause. The next item is the annual report by Treya, and Dave is going to make that. Dave is the regional vice president. Good evening, Dave.
Good evening. Thank you for having me, and I think the presentation should be brought up. Thank you.
Yes.
So first want to thank Commissioner Langley for serving on our board for many, many years and also chairing our regional advisory board, along with the health director, Janelle Octagon. They've done a wonderful job. This presentation is much longer than my usual, but I know I'm not going to have that time, so I'm going to ask you all to kind of read through it. If you have questions afterwards, feel free to reach out to me. I'm available for that. So, as you know, Trillium Health Resources works with the mental health, developmental disabilities, and substance use population, along with the traumatic brain injury population. We're here to be transforming lives, building community well-being through partnerships and proven solutions. We do not provide direct services. I say that every year, and I've been in front of you, I think, 11 years now. And we contract with thousands of provider agencies that does that work. So if you have questions, feel free to reach out to our website or give me a call. Next slide. We cover 46 counties. We are the largest managed care organization in the sense of number of counties. There are 4 tailored plans, and I've talked over the years about what those are. We cover those 3 disability groups, but just this past year, we started covering the physical health of those people with those disabilities. So our total population is 3.1 million. And we have 51,000 people on the tailored plan, which are those that have the physical health issues, along with 163,000 Medicaid direct members and 280,000 uninsured individuals. Next slide. So we have 5 regions because we still want to make sure that we're out in front of county commissioners in all these regions, DSS's, health departments, sheriff's departments, schools, advocacy groups, and so on. So there's now 4 more other people like me out there, and we'll talk a little bit about those representatives. We have 5 consumer family advisory committees throughout the 5 regions. On our governing board, we have 10 consumer family advisory committees, CFAC, and also 10 regional board representatives to make sure we're keeping local representatives on the governing board. 5 regional vice presidents, I'm one of those, along with community liaisons, and we try to actively have stakeholders and stakeholder meetings in the communities. Next slide. So just from a Beaufort perspective, Commissioner Langley and Janelle Octagon on our regional advisory board, and I said Commissioner Langley is our chair, which we really appreciate. I will point out, you'll see the 5 or 6 names up there. Beaufort County has the most number of Consumer Family Advisory Committee members than any other county in our entire 46 counties. You're very well representative from what consumers are needing in Beaufort County. Some counties have none, some counties have 1 or 2. You see the names of how many you have up there. So Beaufort County is very well represented as a voice. Like I said, I'm the regional VP. Terrell Alston is our community engagement and empowerment person that oversees Beaufort, and also some of you know Tiffany Herring. She was there last Thursday at the BC 360 meeting, and so she is also in Beaufort County quite a bit too. Let's get to some numbers. So instead of giving you the annual report, because we did this huge consolidation, we gave you just the last 6 months, July 1 to December 31st. And so the number of people served in there, if you remember last year, the number was about 54,000, and now it's up to 80,000 because we added a lot more counties. And I'll drill down into exactly the Beaufort County numbers also in this report. 57,000 those with primary diagnosis of mental illness, 15,500 with primary diagnosis of substance use, and about 18,500 of those with intellectual and developmental disabilities. Total cost of that, $802 million. Okay? Just the tailored plan update. I won't go into this, but basically that's the whole shift of that was where we used to serve just the disability groups and not the physical health side. We now serve their physical health side. So if someone has COPD and mental illness, we treat both. When we only used to do the mental health part. Okay? Well, now we treat the physical health issues with those individuals. We did a lot of lessons learned with this big tailored plan coming in. Our call volume increased threefold. We used to get about 5,000 calls a month. We're up to 15, 16, 17,000 calls a month, okay, in our call centers. We also are still, and this isn't a resolved issue, we're still having trouble with transportation. And that's throughout all 46 counties. Well, actually, it's throughout the state because the entire state is using one vendor and they subcontract those out. So transportation is an issue for us. And so if you all hear about transportation issues, please feel free to give me a call because we want to hold this mode of care accountable to that, okay? We've been extending some flexibilities to providers so that they can better serve individuals. The last piece of that is the 5 insurance companies that have taken the low to moderate risk Medicaid individuals, and those 5 insurance companies are dealing with them now, okay? That started in 2021, and so they are dealing with them. I'll also say, and you all will hear about this, no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Your commissioners, all you will hear about this in December when Blue Cross Blue Shield, Healthy Blue, they will be taking over all of your foster kids. Okay? Planting that seed now. State went through that process. We manage them now, and we're not perfect at it. We are not. There's a lot to be learned. But it's going to be one statewide agency taking over the foster care kids, okay? Next slide, please. I'm not going to go into this one, but this is just the transformation refresher course that we kind of do with folks. I won't hit on that, so let's go to the next slide. Let me give you some information about the health plans. We, Trillium, are one of the tailored plans, and if you take a look at the total population of the tailored plan members that we serve statewide are in 46 counties, 8% of those are ours. There is a small percentage of the next line, the Medicaid direct members, that are Trillium, but the rest of them are served by the insurance companies. And then you'll see Blue Cross or Healthy Blue, United, WellCare, AmeriHealth, and Carolina Complete Health on the numbers of individuals that they serve, okay? So we're in front of you all the time, right? A lot of you know me very well. I'm planting the seed. You need to know who your representative is at Healthy Blue. You need to know your AmeriHealth. All these other folks, because they're going to be serving, and they're currently serving Beaufort County individuals. Next slide. This is specific, that first slide was to the statewide, and this is specific to Beaufort County numbers. 1,315 or 9% of the total Medicaid enrollment is served by Trillium. And like I said, a small percent, and I'll use the example right now today, of that 3,827 under Medicaid Direct, there's carve-outs like foster care kids that fall into that we currently serve, but the rest of them are served by the insurance companies, okay? Get to know your insurance companies because they're the ones managing a lot of these members now. Next slide. So we have been doing town halls in our new 18 counties that we expanded to. Just a refresher from last year's presentation, the state told us that we were getting 18 new counties. The other three managed care organizations, they got 1 county apiece. Obviously, we're doing something right, but I'm telling you, the lift of adding 18 counties was huge, okay? Commissioner Langley knows that better than anybody. It was huge to add those 18 counties. So we've been on the road a lot with all these new counties and trying to make sure we're getting to know the commissioners, the health departments, and everybody else in those counties, all the different stakeholders. Things that we learned from those town halls were we need to increase our communication efforts. We need to make sure we're streamlining some processes, making sure that we're doing some service expansion. But I will say we have responded to those things, and we're continuing to respond to those, and those are those 6 bullet points on the slide presentation. And we will continue to try, because we're only literally 1 year into this expansion of getting 18 new counties. Imagine what, I've been in front of you all 11 years. New counties for me now to be out in Beaufort County or Anson County, okay? 2 totally different counties in size and population, okay? We have to do the same thing in those counties too to build those relationships. We are going to be planning town halls also probably sometime this summer. Few project updates. We're still offering substance prevention in schools, and Beaufort County schools are doing some of that now, which I was glad to see. Probably next month, and I talked to the sheriff Thursday, we are going to be getting some Narcan kits in, so that Beaufort County will be getting some of those. We're doing reentry simulations, which is kind of promoting what to do with individuals as they get out of jail. Chest Health is just an app for daily check-ins for people in recovery. Opportunity centers, we're looking at opening up those. Mobile clinics, one of the things that we're struggling in Beaufort County, we do have a mobile clinic in Beaufort County, but there's other mobile clinics in Beaufort County. I think one of the providers has one, the hospital has one, and so we're trying to not duplicate efforts in Beaufort County, and we're not getting a big response of people with mental health and substance use coming to those mobile clinics, okay? So we're taking a look at that. We're doing some small business funding. We do have an empowerment camp for people with disabilities that we hold, and a transition to employment program. Now let me get you to the specific Beaufort County numbers. 1,507 individuals were served, 1,110 with a primary diagnosis of mental health, 271 with substance use, and 309 with intellectual and developmental disabilities. If you add up those numbers, I say this every year, some of these individuals are duly diagnosed, and therefore that number doesn't total 1,507. So, and then on the last page is just our contact information of accessing services, and I would be happy to answer any questions. That's the fastest I've done that for you all, because I saw the agenda tonight. So,
Any questions of Dave's report? Thank you very much, Dave.
thank you, appreciate it.
Okay, the next item on our agenda is from the tax assessor, and that's Lloyd is going to lead that discussion, and I hope that you're sitting in an area where you can see the presentation on one of the TVs. Try to catch one of them.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I brought a lot of appeal forms with me. I don't know why I would do that. Got a lot for anyone who needs them, yeah. So I figure everybody doesn't want to do online. I understand that. Get a lot of feedback about that. A lot of people like it. A lot of people don't. That's the way of everything, I suppose, at this point. So, I'm going to try to talk up, but it's me draining a little bit. I apologize for that. So we're going to start off with why we appraise property. State law requires all counties to conduct a reappraisal at least once every 8 years. Our last was in 2018. Bills of last year, 2024, are based on your 2018 value, based on sales from 16 and 17, plus any changes to the property. Your property does not have to change to result in a value change. The market around you does. I hear all the time, but my house didn't change. Your house doesn't have to. Your house can sell for more 7 years later, 1 year later, 10 years later, 8 years later, in a better market, which is what we have had. The market in the county has gone up an average of at least 75% since 2018. I think that confuses people. Average means average. That means there's parts of the county that barely went up. You have some areas around Aurora, had small increase. You have some north of Belhaven, may have had some small increase. You have others, like here in Washington, that huge. And you also have other pockets that went up a lot. The key takeaway is county values did not change in 1 year. It was over 7. What is market value? Market value is the most probable price a property would bring in an open and competitive market. Over time, most properties change in value, but often at different rates, depending on location, as we discussed. The tax department does not create market value. Rather, analysis of the market happens to determine market patterns and trends. Market value is set by the choices of buyers and the set of the marketplace, as pursuant to the North Carolina statute. 4 steps to reappraisal. I'm going to skip by that one. Looks like we went right straight to where our values come from. We all know the steps. Collects data, sales analytics, develop a schedule, and appeals. We'll jump right on. Where our values come from, properties and sales are analyzed to determine current property conditions, market areas, typical sale price for areas. Some variations cannot be determined from property's exterior. For example, I hear this fairly often. My house had a vaulted ceiling. You have my square footage wrong. Well, then we need to know. We did not go in, or I shouldn't say we, the team that went and did the property for Vincent Valuations, which again is a North Carolina company. The company that did that did not go in houses. You will not find a company going in houses. We do try to get in the houses when they were built, but that doesn't always happen either. Sometimes things go up quicker. Sometimes things just happen with that. So we do try to look at that. We try to know if houses are vaulted. We try to know if you have other features that cause square footage differences. We try to know if there's unfinished upstairs. But that's a lot of the appeals I see. And we expect that. That was a lot of the appeals I saw when I worked here in 2010 for the revaluation. You had people who we did not go in the house. It was hard to know what that was. So we also don't know, again, cathedral ceilings, other floor variations, an unusual floor plan, or an interior feature that's not typical. The challenge is then to develop a schedule which addresses this. Why we do it this way? We are responsible for appraising over 46,000 individual properties all at one time. This is referred to as mass appraisal. The most major taxing jurisdictions across the county have the same sort of challenge. There's no practical way to appraise many properties using the same methods used by single property appraisers. When appraisal was done on my house, they looked directly at my house, they walked around my house, they spent time in my house, they have interior pictures of my house. They have everything as far as that goes, if only we had the time. That's not the way it's done. Mass appraisal is the way across North Carolina and across all other states, to my knowledge, except for a few in the West, which are sales states. Unlike single property appraisals, mass appraisal includes an appeals process to help you address valuation issues that can result from limited information, inaccuracy, and even a difference of opinion. So God knows we do have that. How do we know it's right? Mass appraisal techniques include statistical tools used to help measure the accuracy of an appraisal. We use a sales ratio as a common measure of how closely the assessed values match up with the current sales prices. The formula is assessed value divided by sales price. A meaningful sales ratio requires considering multiple sales at typical market values. Sales of single properties or sales that are non-typical conditions, foreclosures, auctions, short sales, etc. often produce misleading results. And let me say, I have worked in markets in downturns. I've worked in 2007, 8, well, technically good, but 8, 9, 10, and it is hard to use small amounts of sales. I also hear occasionally, well, I'm out in the middle of the country where there aren't a lot of sales. You may be surprised. There are parts of out there when you go around Pantego, there are a fair number. You go other parts of the county, you may have to go a half mile or mile. But it stands that by law, you still have to use market-based sales and fair market sales to be able to look at the value of a property. I'll also say I've seen individual bank appraisals go as far away as another county or go 10, 15 miles. My own appraisal, I think, went 19 miles on one sale of a like property. We're a little more conformed to that. We try to say within a reasonable neighborhood. In broad terms, different areas, different changes. We've seen evidence that the market values around the county have changed in different ways. Some areas of the counties have seen increase, some have changed a lot, others by less, some around the same. Sales ratio results. I have one mistake on here I'll own. I wasn't thinking when I wrote this. Can you believe I had a little bit of stress going on, you know? So at the outset of the reappraisal project, we set the following sales goals. Median sales ratio between a 0.9 and a 1.1, a COD, and I'm going to hit what that is. A 10 to 15 is typical, lower is better to some degree. COD is just usually how big in difference are the sales from each other. You don't want to compare houses that are $100,000 to $1 million and et cetera. You want to make it tight. These goals reflect the standards of the International Association of Assessing Officers and the North Carolina Department of Revenue. Our results based on approximately 1,350 sales in 23 and 24. The median sales ratio was a 99.64. Actually, it's a 0.9964. So don't get that confused when you look at the 1.1 and say, oh my God, we're 100 times out. It's not true. That's me. I'll own that one. Mean average sales ratio, 0.9977, and a COD of 11. What does that mean? Low COD indicates that the 2025 appraisal methods match up closely with market sales. Both factors are important because they demonstrate accuracy of appraisal methods. Median sales around 1 indicates that the appraisal methods have generally been followed. It's not mean they're not mistakes. Revaluation changes across North Carolina. So this is important. I get this a lot. People say to me lots of things about the market, the other counties. So I wanted to hit on that. Based on a recent survey for the North Carolina School of Government, changes across North Carolina counties for the 2025 revaluation are averaging out of around a 60% change. So you'll hear that and you'll say, well, wait, we're at a 75. Okay. Well, 90% of those are on a 4-year cycle. We're on a 7. So what I mean by that is a lot of counties have moved to a tighter cycle. I still stand by what I've said here before. Going to the 7, going to the 6 probably makes sense for us here. But again, a lot of those counties that might be right under us in that, we're on a 4-year cycle, meaning they have a shorter number of years with a big or bigger percent change per year. Longer per cycle, the higher the average change in percent. Our board voted to reduce our cycle down to 7. The next will be on a 6-year cycle, with the next revaluation being in 2031. Our average change is around 10.25. Looking at a few other counties, all of them are not ready by the time I did this. A lot of other counties just got notices. Some are trying to get notices. They know their numbers, but I grabbed a few that most of us would know who they are. So looking at Cumberland, it's in the news, last reval, 88%, 11% per year. Davies, a good one to use just for size. 21, the rate of change 51%, 21 county, again a 4-year. Dare, of course, one we all know well, on a 5-year cycle, still got a 73% change, very close to us. Lenore is one I looked at myself, kind of thought was interesting. Lenore being, of course, Kinston in that area, with a lot of rural area, much like us, and even certain areas that are economically depressed, still saw a 73% change in this market, a 9.125, give or take, percent change per year. Pitt County, of course, was last year. Went up, it's on a 4-year cycle, 20 to 24, went up 13.75%. Some areas like Ayden maybe a little different, some areas like Greenville a little different, but that's across the county. It's growth across the county. Union, of course, you can see here, a 21 and a 60. Wayne, one of the lower ones, Goldsboro area, some of that being, of course, a lot of exempt property for the Air Force Base, etc. And then Wilkes County, just one I decided to use, kind of one of the leaders at 80% on a short cycle, 13.3. So appeals, what to do if you disagree. First off, review any information. If you can't find information to review, reach out to me and ask. We'll help you. We'll try to find it for you. We'll try to help you find it. I've had a lot of people, probably some sitting in this room, have sent me Zillow information. Wonderful. Sent Realtor, those kind of things. We don't mind looking at them. I don't know that I'd take your Zillow dollar amount to be exactly what it might sell for, but I think it's good information. It shows you some things around you. You know, it's good as far as that goes. Any kind of resource like that is not a bad resource to use. I think, of course, going on and comparing things, I've heard several people say I found some sales they liked or did not like on GIS. I've heard that several times. I think that's good as well. If all information is up to date, of course, and you disagree with your assessed value, you can file an appeal. I will also take a moment to say what I have seen more of so far, and actually not nearly as many appeals as you would think. I think we're around 400, give or take, so far. I would say that what I'm actually seeing is more square footage, remeasure square footage, vaults again, vault ceiling, unfinished. I had a gentleman just this morning called me and said, I've got a new modular home. They didn't finish upstairs. I see why you think they would. They didn't. Here's the comparison here. We got it fixed. We're going to get that back out to them if we've not already. Obviously, we're a little busy even at 400, but we're trying to get it back as quick as we can. So that's one thing we're seeing a lot. I'm also seeing some people say, my land won't perk. We're looking at that. I was just speaking earlier. We have been working with environmental health to make sure a perk test, look at things like that. Sometimes the value was so low to begin with, people might not have known if the county had a perk on or not. And now that there's been a raise in that, looking at that, whatever else, people have reached out and they want to know that information. We're happy to guide people in that, what to do, what we need from it, and to look at that. And again, if that's incorrect, appeal it and it will be addressed. Is the question really about a value in appeal? There are often issues other than tax value that concern property owners. The amount of change from the last reappraisal, affordability of the expected taxes, level of services provided. While these are all understandable concerns, the only issue my department can handle is the appraised value. I'll beat myself up a little bit. We also can work with elderly and other groups, veterans, if there's a reasonable exemption that they would be able to go under, and I do keep those with me. We do a lot of discussion about those at events that are coming up. We try to discuss that always. There are things such as elderly, other exemptions. So I will say we do help with that, but aside from that, nothing with affordability, level of services. That falls to you, gentlemen. How to support your appeal. You will need to provide information to support your appeal. So useful documentation, what we're going to need, comparable sales or compare sales reports, the county's online anything sales or real estate professional or real estate list. Now, again, every one of them may not be perfect. We can work through them with you. You can work through them. We can look through them. Perk test or certified statement regarding viability to build on land. Income and expense statement, especially for commercial property. Pictures showing the property's inner and outer features and condition. I cannot stress that enough. Condition is another big one. We get people say all the time, I had it several times today, showing me pictures of a leak in the kitchen in a house you never would have thought. Damage to the roof, replacement stuff, things like that. And again, some of these guys, when they went out to properties, we had a lot of calls when it was going on, why are people walking around our properties? Of course, now I hear no one went to my property. Get both on that one, don't we? But as far as that goes, they didn't go in, and what they saw or whatever, it could have been a year, 2 years ago. Things can change. I had, again, a gentleman today say, I just tore down my garage. Great. So that's something that we need to be made aware of to make that value fit. Optional, a copy of a recent fee appraisal. I love to see a fee appraisal. It's great to get some sizes, to get able to go look at that, and maybe some sales as well. How to support your appeal. Again, data errors and out-of-date information about your property can be managed quickly. Our staff members are here to help. We've been having people come into the office. Slowed down a lot today, but been kind of brisk towards the middle of last week. Qualifying property owners may benefit from one of the available property tax relief programs. As I mentioned, we'll stress again, appeals must be based on value, not on the change in value. Whatever the expected tax increase or a rate. People say to me all the time, how can I appeal? I don't know the rate. It's not the rate you're appealing with me. With my office or with Vincent even looking at stuff, what we're looking at is the value. What is the value? Is it correct? Is it not? Then we need to appeal it. If you know you're going to appeal your property value assessment, it is best to appeal as early as possible and before the deadline to ensure you can arrange for a proper hearing. Key appraisal dates. Effective date of the appraisal, January 1st, 2025. People in my office are getting tired of me saying What would it sell for January 1st, 2025? That's a question I ask a lot. What would your house sell for on that date? That's because of statute. Reappraisal notices mail date, February 26, 25. Board of Equalization review date, it's actually April 28th, 25. I am asking to have informal reviews, the first rounds, in a little bit before that, but that means very little because we still accept formal appeals to the board in May 12th. What the difference is, staff's going to try to look at anything that you bring to us as a problem. We're going to try to do that as fast as we can, but we do have to stop at some point to move over to where it's stuff going to the board. Hopefully, and I will knock on wood, we'll have everything addressed, and the only things going to the board hopefully will be people who wanted to go directly to the board, or we haven't been able to get a value that they are comfortable with and want to go to the board. The board does meet every year in this county. I will also say the Board of Equalization Review is our Board of Commissioners. First tax bills impacted by reappraisal will be summer of 25, I hope, aiming at August, I hope. Key appeal date, all appeals must be submitted online, as I just said. The formal process will end April 16th. As I just said, any outstanding appeals will be converted into formal. Nobody's getting ignored. It's not going to happen. Try, though, to get it in by the formal date. That's a little different. Statutorily, we can't do anything if you miss that formal date of May 12th. All right, key appeal date, already said that, already hit that up. Questions?
You want to touch on the area meetings that you're
Sure.
setting up?
Yes, sir. I've been asked by a couple people to go out and do certain meetings. We're going to be meeting, let me see if I can get one of those. Am I lucky enough that I brought one with me? I probably did not.
I've got.
I know
I've got 3 of them.
I'll say Bellhaven or
March
this week.
March the 12th is in Bellhaven.
Correct.
March the 13th is in Aurora.
Correct. We're doing 11 to 1 both
And
days.
March the 19th is in Washington or the community college.
Correct,
where
and that is
was
a
gonna
night
be.
meeting, 5:30 to 7:30 at the community college. I'm up into more. I have no problem with a night meeting. The day ones, I think, are more because the municipalities asked for them during the day. Could be seniors, could be availability, could be building, I don't know, but that's when we're doing Aurora and Bellhaven, is during the day. This information is available online, and we'll make sure to have that up. Oh, I think it is. We also have it posted all around the county campus here, et cetera. I'm pretty sure we have it online already, but we'll make sure if we do not. Brandon's really good about that. We also have a couple small meetings, and I'm also up for others. If anyone has a group that really wants to dive into this, the only thing I don't do in person is I don't actually work on value change in person. It'd bog me down all day. But we'll talk about the whys, the whats. We can even get specific neighborhoods if we have the time. So those are the things we're really going to try to work on and go over a lot of what we just went over, but dive into it a little bit more if we have the time in those 2 hours.
Does any of the commissioners have any follow-up questions?
I have a question. Do you know the value of all of the property in Beaufort County that this appraisal so far, even though it's incomplete, came to?
I do not have that number here with me.
But I can get it from you.
You can, absolutely.
All right, thank you.
That number will also have to be provided, while I do not do anything with revenue neutral, that number will be provided to finance again to be able to part of that decision.
Gotcha.
And also, it's a moving target because
Appeal loss.
the appeals will change the values.
That's correct.
Of property.
I've said before, you should always take that into account, and I do. I mean, you have to figure we will have a little bit of downturn with appeal loss. And also, don't forget, and this is one reason, I'll be real careful not to get into this too much, but people say effective tax rate, and I flinch a little bit. One thing, too, don't forget, it actually, and Manager Alligood, please say, Lloyd, shut up, you're wrong, but when you're looking at those numbers, we're actually looking at total value in the county, too. So you're also looking at business stuff, which I do not have in yet. I won't get in until April 15th, a lot of the business values. I'm also going to have IPP, which is boats, trailers, everything else with some changes to those. Of course, we're rolling some things into IPP, being from, it's not real property, it's a mobile home, making that fix. Cars also play into those numbers as well. So those are all considered when you're actually looking overall. We tend to talk about real property, and that's important. There are other numbers that change every year as far as tax value. And again, when a reval happens, you don't And people say, well, you don't affect personal property. You'd be surprised. In a county like this, double wides, things like that, some go on, and we're trying to get them accurate. If it should be this, should be that. So a lot of those things do realign. And you also have changes every year in schedules with the state and everything such as that. So you'd actually look at everything when you look at those numbers. So what I'm going to get you will have a component of real property, but it also have some estimates of where I am and some other things. But they are estimates until we have those final numbers in. Sure.
At some point, once we look at people's individual values and start formulating and understanding how certain neighborhoods were evaluated, if we find one neighborhood completely out of whack, which would make a big difference in everybody else's individual evaluation, revaluation, I guess it would be better said, would you be an advocate of taking another look at that neighborhood?
So at the number we're at with appeals so far, I don't think you have an indicative neighborhood problem. If we do, it needs to come forward. I have had a few neighborhoods that have had a few missketches more than others, a handful, 5, 6, give or take, or whatever, across 1,000 homes or whatever as far as that goes. I'm sure there are more. I'm sure more will come out. I'm sure there's people in this room who own neighborhoods. But as far as that goes, if that is the case and there is an issue that we see across something large, I would try to make sure that we address it. Now, if that happens, it would be easier to be addressed sooner. So again, that's why we encourage appeals. And if you have an appeal, the quicker the better, because we're mapping where everything is across the county coming up. So it makes it a lot easier to have all the data sooner, so those maps are fuller and show that data. So for instance, if everybody can have informals in by the April 16th date, it would be easier to see if there's any problems in that week or two we have to work before the BER.
Thank you.
I don't think that we can stress enough that if people have errors, they feel like something's wrong,
right,
you really need to go through the appeal process.
That's correct.
The people that did the appraisal is going to be here for...
So they're going to be here at least through the beginning of the Board of Equalization review. My staff and me are looking at a few very specific things as far as it goes. Things like, we have jumped into a few perk test items. We deal with that a little quicker, going through environmental health, et cetera. So we're working on that as well. We're here to be able to address that. But I would say, obviously, we're going to be full out running right on to y'all's Board of Equalization review dates, if not even a little bit past that.
But that's the easiest way to correct mistakes. But you just can't go in and sit across the desk and say, I don't agree with the value. It's probably not going to get changed.
So that's a wonderful point. So a lot of the appeals that have been open that we've looked at so far have been really good. I've been impressed. I've had pictures. I've had a lot of pictures. I've had a lot of, appraisal data. I've had a lot of sketches, blueprints, plans. Today, a really nice lady actually gave me a cost to cure. Love to see it. It really is helpful. You can look at things like that. But the problem with that is, while we will look at your property if you put, I disagree, we're still going to do a basic look. That's all we can do is a basic look. So we're going to look at the cells around it, look at a few things. However, if you can help guide us to what you think the problem is, and again, I understand 200, 300%, mine went up over 200%. And I get that, but that's hard to just say it went up this much. It's hard to say that's my appeal reason. So try, if possible, to guide us down to what things we're seeing. And if you can't, we really are going to work with you. I have had a few times over the years where someone said the value was out of control. We looked at it. We still found something. But it's so much easier when you can give me data to work with. That's probably true in any business.
Everybody good? Okay.
I'll still be available through all the public comments. I'll be here to the end. Thank y'all.
Let me just throw one thing in. One big mistake that people are making is they're taking their new value and multiplying it by the present tax rate. Doesn't work. It's not going to be that way. If the value of the property in the county goes up, the tax rate's going to go down, because I, as a commissioner, don't intend to vote to increase spending in Beaufort County. which means we'll be collecting the same amount of taxes on a different value of property than this fall when it's time to pay your taxes. So be careful. A lot of people are getting overly excited with this, and wait until you find out what the rate is. Then that becomes political. You can then start going after commissioners.
Don't wait for your bill to appeal, is the saying.
Mr. Chairman.
All right.
Hood, I think you're wrong there. I don't think you can wait until the rate's been set. I think if you're going to get political, you need to kind of get started early while we're having our budget session, because as some of you already know, it's not your revaluation, it's the tax rate. And the tax rate is directly associative to what we spend. Now, if we spend too much money, then your taxes go up. If we spend the right amount of money, your taxes will remain the same. If we can cut waste, fraud, and abuse, as we see they're doing at the federal level, your taxes will go down. So, if you want to get political, the time to get political is starting right about now.
Okay, Lloyd. I'm sorry, Brian.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you. Just wanted to expand a little bit on Commissioner Richardson's comments. So the Machinery Act, which is the general statute that applies to taxes that was written by the General Assembly that we are required to go by, requires that the Board of Commissioners, or that the budget present what's called the revenue neutral number. You've heard a lot of talk about the revenue neutral number, and that is the number of taxes, the amount of the tax that would equate to the same amount of revenue, considering regular growth, that you would get if there hadn't been a revaluation. So like Commissioner Richardson said, there's value times the tax rate equals the levy. So if the value goes up to get the same amount over here, the rate comes down. That's the formula. And it's required by law, so if anybody is concerned that they won't know, the General Assembly made it very clear. We actually have a spreadsheet that is provided to us by the Local Government Commission. The Department of Revenue puts that spreadsheet out there. You will see that spreadsheet in our budget, and it will show you exactly what the revenue neutral number is. And that way, someone can look at it and say, did you raise my taxes or did you not raise my taxes? And the General Assembly did that on purpose, because they had folks who were playing games. And they want to say, well, because I could honestly say to you, I lowered your tax rate, but I only lowered it by 2 pennies when the revenue neutral number was a whole lot less. You can play games doing that. So the General Assembly said, nope, you got to show this formula, you got to go by it, it's the law, and you'll see it in our budget. So you will know very clearly whether taxes went up or whether taxes went down or whether they stayed generally the same. And again, also want to say, this is general. This is general across the entire county. So there are changes that occur in certain areas that may be up, certain areas that may be down, but as a whole, that's what it is. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Lloyd.
Yes, sir.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is Commissioner Deathridge.
A lot of fine people here tonight, and they're here concerned about the revaluation. Thank you. A lot of fine people here tonight. They're concerned about their revaluation. And they're going to be speaking to us. Well, some of you may have some questions, would like some answers that you may not have been satisfied from our tax assessor, who does a wonderful job. So I have allowed or asked to have this on the agenda, and Patricia Garrison from the audience has some questions she would like to ask of us. Now, I would like to further state, if any of you have any questions that you can't feel like you can get into your public comments, please feel free to ask them now.
Well, I'm going to correct that. We're going to, after the public comment, we're going to spend an hour with public comments and answering questions, and that's when it's going to be open. But at this point in time, it's just between you and us. Okay.
So the public will get to ask questions?
After the public comment.
They will?
Yeah, up to an hour.
Up to, if they get, we generally don't do that. So
Well,
if that's the case, that'll be great.
Yeah.
That'll be wonderful.
So,
But Patricia, you get to speak now.
Continue, okay.
And ask questions.
Okay. All right. I have a statement to make before I begin my questions. We, the people of a constitutional republic, not a democracy, are here to petition grievances with our government. about property revaluation, taxes, and the way that the system has worked to reevaluate our property. The property of the people belongs to the people. To take it from them by taxation cannot be justified except by urgent public necessity. Unless this principle is recognized, our country is no longer secure, our people no longer free. That is a quote from Calvin Coolidge. Post-World War II, the government took advantage of rising property values to increase tax collections. Reassessment rose, tax rates rose, as stories of homeowners losing their homes by being forced to sell ran rampant in newspapers. Today, Main Street USA is talking about being forced to sell their homes and forced to close their businesses. Thus, history repeats itself. We hear frequently about revenue neutral taxation. That has been explained tonight as the value goes up, your tax rate comes down. My question for the county commissioners is, are you going to lower the tax rate so that no one in this room is going to have to pay higher taxes? Would anyone like to answer that question?
When we go through the budget process, we hear from all of the departments, and we consider whether there's going to be any kind of expansion. And all of that goes into the formula, our total budget, and that would determine if there's when you say a tax cut, I'm assuming that you're saying that we would lower it below the neutral rate, yes. Revenue neutral rate.
Yes.
I can't say that at this point in time. I will tell you this much. I will vote for it to be neutral.
Okay.
Well, I can answer that question, and I hate to be brutal, but the answer is no. And the reason is the purpose of a tax revaluation is fairness. That's why the legislature requires that it be done at least every 8 years. So if you have a piece of property on the river that you paid $200,000 for, and this has happened in the last year or two, and it suddenly sold for $800,000 or $900,000, and your neighbor a mile or two away that's not on the water, his property didn't increase in value. Nobody wanted to pay him a higher value for it. It's not fair for that $800,000 or $900,000 piece of property to be taxed at $200,000 and the other person to be taxed at only $100,000 for his property. It's about fairness. That's the only reason that we revalue property. We don't revalue property to raise taxes because the commissioners can raise taxes anytime we want to. But it's for fairness, to make sure that you are not mistreated within the tax code. So to answer the question that Patricia said, some people's taxes are going to go up, and some people's taxes are going to go down, and some people are going to be about the same. You know, so what's that story about the fairy tale with the bear? Hot, cold, and just right. So you need to be aware that if you've had a windfall, that your taxes are going to go up. You need to be aware if you moved to Beaufort County from New York State and you paid $1 million for a $200,000 piece of property, you're going to be taxed on that.
Let me ask you a question. Your part on the agenda is to talk about the revaluation process.
Right.
Are you happy or unhappy with the value of your personal property, your real estate?
I am not happy.
You're not happy?
No.
Have you filed an appeal?
No.
You're not?
But I plan to.
Have you looked at the comparable sales for Pawtucket?
No.
You've not?
I understand that one, and this came from someone that did the reevaluation in 2018, one sale, one sale can determine values. One sale. So if you have two people that move down here, they want a piece of property, and they get in a bidding war, and whoever has the most money and buys that property, that determines the value of the property. I was told that, I asked that question more than once to make sure I was hearing it correctly. One sale determines the value of your property. Yes.
I would encourage you to go online, and where it says sales, there is 3 sales in Pantigga within the last year, and they're all within 2 miles of you.
Right.
And your square footage, your cost per square foot on the appraisal is the lowest one out of those.
Okay. All right. Next question. Will you spend more of the taxpayers' money this year? Do you plan to increase spending? Do you plan to cut budgets in order to not have to raise the tax rate? Some commissioners have justified raising your tax rate simply because another county has a lower rate. That's their justification. Do you plan to cut spending for the next fiscal year?
Can I answer that?
Yes.
I've already asked this board to cut spending this year by 10%, because I know from being a commissioner for a long time and watching how we spend money, we've been spending money way too much, way too fast on a lot of projects that some of us don't think are necessary. The end result there is that it's harder to lower your tax rate, especially in times when the amount of sales tax doesn't come in like it did back during COVID and afterwards, and also with the revaluation. Some people being out of that loop where they have the fairness. They're not going to feel like it was ever fair, no matter what happens. So I feel that it is incumbent upon the commissioners to cut waste, fraud, and abuse whenever they can. Now, are we perfect up here? No, not by a long shot. And there is work that needs to be done during the budget time by these commissioners. I'll argue that, and I think we could find 10%. Hood Richardson, sitting down there, he said we need to cut the tax rate by 10%, and that would be the tax rate of the revenue neutral tax rate, I suppose. So, I mean, you've got 2 commissioners here who are going to be fighting for you. So if you want to get political now.
Here again, we've got people that want to talk to us.
Yes.
And and it's about the value, which is the first part of it.
Yes.
We're way over there to the budget and what the tax rate is. So
And the tax rate also
have you
has to
got
deal with
anything
the
else?
budget.
Have you got anything else to say about the value, the way it was done, revaluation?
Well, my question would be, and this is one more question. How do the commissioners determine the success of this current revaluation? How do you determine if it was successful and was accurate and just? Would anyone like to answer that?
I can answer. We hired a professional company that does this all the time. They subscribe to the appraisal rules, regulations, standards, and they've done appraisals in a lot of other places. So to tell you that it's going to be perfect, it's not going to be perfect, but it's going to be as close to correct as we can get it there. And I want to say one more thing Commissioner Destridge alluded to. I moved that we reduce taxes. Taxes, that's your money that goes in your pocket, not spending, but taxes, 10%. That was voted down by this board, as was Stan Dethridge's motion to reduce spending. Both have already been voted down by the board for this coming year. So if you want to be political, you need to talk to these board members about reducing taxes 10% because the money is sitting there doing nothing. You've been overtaxed for years.
Okay, thank you. Okay, our board policy allows for public comments up to 30 minutes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask for a motion from the board, and we'll vote to increase the time to an hour, which will allow, based on the number I've got here, will allow some time for some questions of of Lloyd, the county manager, or the commissioners. Okay?
Make that motion.
Okay, we've got a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
And a second. All those in favor, raise your right hand. All right, nay. Here's the rules. You got 3-minute limit, and that's going to be on the TV, and hopefully you'll be able to see it. If you don't see it, then I'll gavel, and that means your 3 minutes is up. I'm going to ask that you give your name, and you don't have to say what street it is and write down to the address, but at least give the commissioners an idea of where you live. Pantigga, Blunt's Creek, something like that. Okay, Acre Station, that'll take care of it. And it would also be interesting, I think, is that keep in mind, this group up here can't do anything on your personal value unless you go through the appeal process. You've got to go through the informal appeal process, or you're going to go through the formal, which will go before the commissioners, and that'll be done one at a time. So I'm going to open it up now, and the first one is Toby, if you want to come up.
Thank you, Commissioners. My name's Toby J. Tetterton. I live in Bath, North Carolina. I'm a businessman. I own property throughout Beaufort County. TJ's Marine Construction, TJ's Custom Buildings, TJ's Land Development, TJ's Marina. You know, I've heard, and I passed out the paper that you get from the, state of North Carolina, Department of Revenue, showing where that neutral number is supposed to be. You can value your land whatever you want to, I suppose, which you can, but that neutral number is the question. How are they going to get to a neutral number when my taxes have doubled and tripled in value? So regardless of where they put that number, and I've already been told by one of the county commissioners, it's going to be north of 51 cents on 100. Now, the state says it should be somewhere around 39 cents on 100. So my taxes are going up. I mean, tens of thousands of dollars. I mean, and I will try, knows that, I'm going to appeal. There's no question about that. But how am I going to fight myself back? Hundreds of thousands of dollars of value that's increased all of a sudden. Matter of fact, I'll offer to sell it to any of you on my property and I could retire. But as it stands right now, I'm going to have to keep working just to be able to pay my taxes. And, the value, there's no way they can get it down there without our taxes going up. If your taxes have doubled and they lower it down to even to 41 cents, you're still paying more in taxes. So they're getting more revenue. Now, do they need it? Maybe they do. I don't know. I don't think so. I believe in paying taxes. I don't have a problem with it. And I've had some properties been overvalued, maybe a few undervalued a little bit, paid my taxes. But now I've got property that's worth a whole lot more money than I ever thought it was going to be worth. And I liable to have to sell property in order to be able to keep property. So these commissioners need to do their job, or we need to find some new commissioners. I'm sure my 3 minutes will go up pretty quick. Well, no question I'm going to appeal, but last time I appealed, I didn't get anywhere with it. I didn't get anywhere. Maybe I will this time, but I dare say that they value a piece of property went from $600,000 to $1.4 million. I expect I'm not going to get very far with that one. Do you? I had no idea. And hey, like I say, maybe I start putting some property up for sale. Maybe I have to. But again, we're the ones really need to change this. There's some good people up here. I'm not saying I'm not saying there's few doing the right thing. Maybe few aren't. I don't know. But I can tell you something. Unless we start voting and getting more conservatives up here to be able to voice their opinion about the amount of taxes that we're going to be levied, I guess we're at fault. So I would say that just when the next election comes, we need to keep this in mind. Because, I mean, some of us, how about the elderly people? What are they supposed to do? They're on a fixed income. Their tax going up, hey, $500 more a year may not sound like a lot to a lot of people. But, to a person, it is. Thank y'all.
The next one is Ray.
I can save you 2 minutes and 45 seconds. My questions have been answered.
Okay. All right.
Land for me and how the ratios were done, so I'm done.
Good, okay. Tony?
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
My name is Tony Tedderton. I live in Bath, North Carolina. I'm here strictly to speak about the procedure. I just wanted to, I should print out more of these. I'd just like to pass them around. These are two homes that prior to evaluation had zero value. And one of them suddenly is $14,000 and the other one suddenly $2,000. So it's not a perfect system, I understand, but you can understand why these people are upset when you see things like that. And that's just two houses I happen to come by, and I happen to know how to use your GIS website pretty well. So the only other question I have is, I noticed that there seems to be an arbitrary value of landed size adjustment. Does anybody know what that is? I'm sure the appraiser does. It seems like sometimes a piece of property that all of a sudden will be increased by 50% by this adjustment, size adjustment. Is he here? Oh, anyway, hopefully I'll get that answer sooner or later.
Hold that one until we bring him, he comes back in.
Thank you very much.
All right, Sherry?
I'm Sherry Tyson. I live on the west side of Washington at 109 Pine Tree Drive, Arbor Bluff. Good evening. I don't have any questions. I've just got some statements I want to make. The economy is bad enough. People are already struggling to buy food, pay bills. Most are working 2 to 3 jobs, hustling on the side just to make ends meet. The hired staff visiting our properties are not reevaluating correctly. Look up and compare various properties on the Beaufort County GIS, and you will see discrepancies in properties. My property alone has increased 118%, and other properties even more. I understand the county commissioners have the power to lower the tax rate to keep our tax bill the same, while allowing our property value to remain at the recent reevaluation. Who's to say the tax rate will be lowered? Probably not. Who's to say if the tax rate is lowered, will it stay lowered until the opportunity arises for you to raise it on the reevaluation amount? I plan to reside at my residence until I die, with my children inheriting our property, which I'm sure is the case for the majority of the folks here tonight. I don't care that my property is not valued high. Then you have our seniors. My mother, for instance, paying county and city taxes, and has worked all her life and paid for her property, but still has to pay taxes on what she owns, which we really don't own anything. Seniors are on a fixed income, cannot pay the higher property taxes. I've known seniors in the past few days cry, literally cry, over the hike in their property. Seniors are already struggling to buy prescriptions, pay their medical bills. Our seniors should not have to worry how they are going to pay their taxes. Most seniors do without their medicine and food in order to pay their household bills to have a roof over their head. The truth is, seniors do without food and medicine. Of course, medicine is very extremely expensive. If they don't pay their taxes, what are you going to do? We all know what happens. For instance, look at Ocracoke. Local property owners couldn't pay their taxes, so they had to sell their property. It's inevitable. You will raise the tax rate on the recent property reevaluation. It might not be now, but in the coming year or two you will. You all are just pacifying the people. One last note. I believe if you serve as a county elected official, you should have to pay your finances. Your finances should be in order and your taxes paid. Wouldn't you say that, Mr. Booth and Mr. Waters? Your taxes need to be paid.
My taxes are paid. You must be looking at somebody else's, ma'am.
No, ma'am. No, sir, I'm not.
Yeah. Okay, Danny?
That's right.
A lot of my questions have already been answered too, but I did have one. There's a certain value of everything in this county that's taxed. What was it for last year? Anybody know?
it was, what, 6.5 billion? Close to 7 billion.
Okay, let's just say now it's 14 billion all of a sudden?
No, it's not going to be that, because that's doubled. It's not.
Well, that's how much they did my house, so I figure it's kind of like the same thing.
But we have property in the county that did not increase.
Yeah, well, what do you think would be about what it would be? About 75% more? Or?
I think Lloyd used the figure of 75 in his presentation.
That's what he did say. That's kind of what I thought I heard. So, all right, let's just say there's, what, 63 cents now you're at, or 61 cents?
62 and a half.
62 and a half. So, in order to get it about right, it would be down to about 35, 37? You say?
That's to be determined.
That's a lot, right?
You will find out what the revenue neutral number is.
Yeah. Well,
when we finish the process.
That was my question, and that's about all I got.
Yeah. Thank you. Okay, Robin.
My questions have already been answered.
Okay. Nancy.
I may. Good evening. I'm probably going to give a little bit of a relief because I'm not talking about taxes. I've come today to talk to you about some discussions that have been going on in Aurora, and I'm Nancy Cameron Hubbard, and I'm from there. And we have been told that there is discussions about closing the Aurora School. And I have a very large concern about that. I don't have any children in school, but I do have my residents in Aurora. Close the school, you impact that town. We'll end up with no school. We lost a grocery store, we're getting it back, we're getting that back. We're losing our bank. We can live without that. We lost our health care, we're getting that back. But we're gonna lose our school. If we lose our school, we're going to take our children and put them on a bus. And where are we going to send them? We can't find out an answer. We can't find out. There's no plan. People have gone to the school board expecting to find out what's going on. They don't get an answer. They can't get anybody to tell them what the plan is. Where are these kids going to go? 5 and 6 years old. If they're going to come to Chalk Windy, we're going to send them, what, 2 hours in the morning? 2 hours a night? Can you imagine how cranky that kid's going to be by the time he gets home? Not to mention mommy and daddy, who now have to get up earlier to get that child on the bus. And the changes. They can't be involved in anything outside, in activities. It takes too long to get there. These kids, it's just unfair. And then in the town, let's look at the town of Aurora. Let's take this away. Are you going to have any economical growth in that town? I don't see that happening. What can you offer a new family that wants to come in? We've got Nutrien, who's got, and I'm maybe quoting incorrectly for my stats, but you have a 25% possible retirement that's going to take place. How are you going to bring in people to our area if you can't offer them things? So my concern, I'm bringing to you, is I hear that this is going on and want to have you folks jump on board and let us know what's happening and what we can do about it. If you would, you're our commissioners, you represent us, we're the ones at the bottom end of things. Just come and help us out to understand why. Give us some answers. We're not getting them. We're just not. So, thank you.
Thank you.
I told you it was something simple.
Okay, we're only 23 minutes into the 1 hour, so I'm gonna ask, is there anyone else that would like to come up for the public record and speak on the revaluation? This is your chance to speak. And then I'm going to open it up for questions.
Yes, may I speak again?
No, you've already had your time.
Sorry, I'm a little dry in the throat. My name is Buckley Collum. I'm on 900 block of North Market Street. I do have a problem with the valuation. We moved here about 3.5 years ago, and we got a fair market price on the house and public information, so we paid $240 on the house, $240,000, sorry. And the current property valuation is closer to $576,000, which is a bit egregious. Even, anyway, it's not realistic. I routinely download and monitor information from various real estate sites, including Zillow provides publicly available information about growth trends and things like that. And we are nowhere near, the highest I've ever seen estimate on our house is $400,000. And they make a good point in noting in the documentation that this is, the valuation we're seeing right now is based upon a fair purchase agreement between a buyer and seller, no foreclosures or anything like that. It seems to be far outside that line. I've been trying to, I came to this meeting, I haven't done the appeal yet. We absolutely plan to do that process. I came here in the hopes of getting further information. I have not been able to find online or through the tax assessor site where their value information comes from. There should be tables, formulaic data pools, things like that. None of that seems to exist. And I'm wondering if that is publicly available, and if we could actually see that information. There doesn't seem to be any way to access or locate it. So I would like to see where those numbers are coming from. We seem to have a lot of people saying that the valuations have gone dramatically up. And I noticed in your presentation you said some houses have gone up, some houses have gone down. I'm pretty sure as a from the tax department, you know exactly how many properties are in Beaufort County, and you can give us precisely, within 0.1%, how many have gone up, how many have remained the same, and how many have gone down. We've not heard that number, but it seems like everybody I talk to within the city, I have friends out in Pinetown, Bath, Aurora, Swan Point, they're all saying their prices going up, and we've not heard anybody saying, yeah, my price dropped 22%. I haven't heard that. And I would really like to get concrete numbers about the percentages that have gone up, gone down, or remain the same, as long as, and also that data pool that tells us where the prices are coming from.
When you finish,
I
we'll let, are you finished?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Lloyd, you want to?
I'm going to be real careful on that one because I disagree, because I'm almost your neighbor and there's a big sale right beside you, but no, we're good.
Okay.
So what we actually need is, what we actually can give you is, it's pretty simple to give you the sales by the neighborhood. We'll break out the neighborhood, open an appeal, email me, either one you want. We'll be able to provide that. It's on GIS, but we can give it more specific so that we'd be able to do it that way, so you don't have to go hunt and peck for what's in your neighborhood. We're working on a layer to put in there at the moment with a vendor to try to make it easier so it just pops your neighborhood out, but we can send the form. As far as the change, absolutely. I don't think that would be too hard. I've not been asked for it before, but we could probably be able to come up with something pretty easy across the county for one up. And again, I would, as far as that goes, I would think most have gone up. I always mention Aurora and a little bit of Bellhaven, but as far as that goes, we should be able to get those numbers if requested by the board.
Where's Tony? Is he still in the room? He did leave?
Tony Keach or Tony?
No, Tony Tetterton.
My brother, and I probably won't do it well, but he was actually looking at one of my piece of properties, there's actually two of them, and they're located on River Street in Bellhaven. All in all, at the end of the day, the valuation is not a lot of money, because it was only valued at $4,000. Now they're at $25,000, which I'll never, matter of fact, I'll offer to anybody today for half that. There's no way they'll ever sell for $25,000. So I don't know how you come to that, but they doubled the value because of the size of the lot. There's some kind of method they use. Because the lot was so small, they doubled the values at 14 and they turned it to 28,000. So we ain't quite figured that one out. How does that work?
Pretty easy. So appeal it, it's wrong. So one of the problems that actually happened in that, well, I would guess, is somebody did it, like inverted a size modifier or something in your, as far as that goes. it can happen. You move it on 40-something thousand pieces. It's easy to get a size modifier, uncap it, get an appeal. If you don't want to go that way, email me, we'll look at it, but we should go with it.
And on that note, and I get that we appeal, and I appreciate that, but I got a day job.
I understand.
And now I don't have just a few pieces of property, a lot of them I'm going to be arguing. I've got to go start finding values and so forth. I'm not a realtor. And I guess now I'm gonna have to hire somebody to do appraisals for me. If I do the appraisals, and I'm more right than you, are you gonna pay for my appraisals?
So, I think we missed the words mass appraisal earlier. So the way this is going to work, real simple, is you should not have to get an appraisal if your problem is what you just said. Yours should be as simple as...
One of multitudes, every one of mine would have...
But I doubt that all of yours are the same problem, and all yours may not even be a problem. So, I mean, as far as that goes, it could be some different things. But on the ones that are obvious, or, egregious or obvious, again, back to it again, several people in here that I've talked to, two gentlemen caught me outside, said, look at the pictures inside my house, look at my land. There are obviously things, I have never said otherwise, that we can address as far as that goes. And as far as an appraisal, you are not required to get an appraisal. I said earlier, and I'll say it again, we will try to look at everything at a base level if someone appeals. We will.
And I appreciate that.
But now, I fully do admit that the more you can give, the better. That's every county in the state through appeal process. No other way. But as far as that goes, I'll look you in the eye and I will say, sir, I believe that's an error, so we need to address that error directly.
I've taken several telephone calls, and every one of them, I've asked them to give me the read number, REID, and I have pulled it up. I didn't do it while they were there. I mean, we were on the phone, but they gave me that. I looked at the property, and there's a tab that says sales. That's the comparables that we use for that particular piece of property. And I have yet to find any one that I've done it on that's out of whack based on that.
I would like to add, that's actually your GIS sales, the closest around you. Some of those will be bigger, some will be smaller, et cetera, et cetera. Back to the gentleman that talked to me a moment ago, whatever, we can provide the specific stuff in an Excel sheet if you appeal or want to be able to see the sales. That way it's a little easier. It's as easy as just saying, open it and ask for that. We should be able to do that.
Based on what the board just said, there's actually...
Any other questions as it relates to the process and what you need to do? Yes, sir.
Lloyd, is it?
Yes, sir.
Question, you talked about the valuation from the GIS information schedule. You're then taking comparable square footage and coming up with a square footage price to then base, because if the closest property that's sold next to my house is 3,000 square feet and I'm in 2,000, is that kind of what you're doing?
Yes and no. Good question.
What do you mean yes and no?
No, it's actually not.
Okay,
so,
go ahead, sorry.
Thank you. So the way that it actually is going to work is you build out a schedule. So the first thing you do in mass appraisal pursuant to the law is you have to have a schedule of values. It was presented here, it was looked at here. We had a time period for everyone to consider it, to appeal it, to abut it, to say anything against it. Kind of empty room at the time, but that has to happen in every county in the state. So what happens when that happens is the schedule goes in and it derives what grade your house should be based on features, what other features should be, what certain values are, such as your garage or your whatever, what it should add to the value, what the little pieces are of the puzzle. So then that's applied to your property. Then that will be looked at in a neighborhood fashion to kind of up or down certain factors across the neighborhood. So for instance, if you're working in a neighborhood or whatever else and you're looking at things that are very similar to each other, you're probably not going to have to do a whole lot of adjustment as far as that goes. If you're going to get one where you got 2,000, 3,000 square foot different, did they look at that individually? No. Did it add to the model? Yes. So it's going to be looked at in the abstract, in the bigger term. Now, as far as when people ask me for sales, we try to give them sales because what happens is these sales should tax out or be sold at similar to you. So you're able to see how the model applied to both. And that's mass appraisal. So for instance, if I've got a 2,000 square foot house, probably 1,800 is probably common in the county. So you got a 2,000 square foot house, whatever. a lot of times we've built in size modifiers, or they built in size modifiers to say something bigger than that, maybe less dollar per square foot, smaller maybe more, because you see that in sales that they've looked at. You see that in the market. So while I'm not going to say, no, it was ignored, yes and no. It was used in the model to look at it when you base those sales. Again, it's not hard to be able to provide sales like that. You can look on GIS, that's everything, admittingly, but it's not the best grouping in the world. We acknowledge that. I would love to have it, and we're working on it, where we can do some more layers in there that we're already working on, trying to make it better. We are trying to do that, again. So things like that, as far as it goes, I would never compare apples to oranges if not possible. Don't think double-wide sales should be looked at in Cypress Landing, nor vice versa. You know, I certainly don't think you should be looking at 3,000 square foot houses versus those. So all those are separated in the schedule. They're all looked at square foots again and grades again and all those other pieces. And that's put together to be mass appraisal.
And if like on
Yes,
the
please.
back end of that,
Yeah.
you grabbing data from the deed and the on-file records as far as square footage and that kind of information?
So the deed doesn't normally speak to the square footage, not in a lot of times. Not saying yours doesn't, but especially in the older homes in here, you're not going to see that. It's usually a representation of person to person, et cetera. So what happens as far as that goes? Permit information if possible, old permit information if possible, whatever was there if possible. Certainly the deed for size size of property, land, et cetera, cut as far as that goes. I've had a couple people say, well, that doesn't match what we have. That happens every year, not just reval year. That has to be looked at, you know, the calculated versus the deeded, et cetera, as far as that goes. But yes, sir, we certainly have gotten data from those items. Legal documents, permits. If we can get a plan, if we can do a walkthrough when a house is being built, but of course, we're in a county where everything's not brand new. So, keep saying I, but I mean, the appraisers, et cetera.
Would you stand up?
Telling me or somebody behind?
There's one in the very back. Yes, yes.
Thank you, Lord.
3 minutes.
Okay, 3 minutes, real quick. I had a piece of property went up 400%, and I was very upset about it because it's swampland, nowhere to build on it. But while I was here, I looked at GIS, and I found out somewhere in that swampland that I'm unaware of, I've got a building. And so these people in this room here, they might have a new building in the backyard reason the property went up. You need to check. But I know I don't have a building on that swampland. I'm going to check tonight when I get home. But last time I went back there, it was mud, and I sunk down to my knees. No road front on this swampland. Just good for water moccasins and mosquitoes, but I'm going to try to find that building. If I can't find it, I'm going to want to peel my building. I don't know how I can take pictures of something that don't exist, but I hope somebody on this board will help me with my problem. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I live on 1284 Ball Road, and my taxes was at $44,000 last year, and now they went up to $122,012 this year. All right. I don't know how y'all assess this stuff. I had a little girl come in the front yard, looked at my house and everything, and that was it, and she left. Okay. Harvey and Scott Williams take every year there for 5 straight years now, because I counted the loads, because I'll be there when they're doing it. They take and haul tractor trailer loads of human waste from the city of Washington, 80 loads every year. And what they do is they got these big tractors in the property behind my house and everything, and that goes in about 3 foot or something. I'm not sure how it was. And they pull and they dump them loads in there. And if somebody was to look at my property and see them trucks going in there and everything, my value would go way down. Because of the fact being, I just don't understand how they can do that. But they get paid $1,000 a load. And it's been done for 5 straight years since I've been there. And I just don't understand it.
I'm sure it requires a state license, and they use a subsolar,
There's a permit required.
permit required to do that.
Yeah, but still, like I say, my property, I feel like it goes down because of the fact we ain't doing that.
Well,
Regardless.
it's fertilizer.
You should bring that to the Board of Adjustment. I think you got a argument
Yeah.
for a reduction.
Like I say, I just can't understand it. My weight tripled, as far as, like I say, it went from 44,000 to 122,000 on the assessment here, so I just don't, I'm going to appeal, so.
Okay.
But I just don't understand how they can sit there and dump that stuff in the, in the field every year. Done it for 5 straight years now. And not only that, but the land, the driveway that they use, they don't wet it or anything, and all the dust just comes right on my property. Covers my cars up and everything else. It's bad.
So you're living in the country?
Huh?
You're living in the country?
Like I say, on Ball Road, 1284 Ball Road. So, I'm in the country.
All right.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
One of the commissioners told me what number they knew they wasn't going to go under. Would you please repeat that number, that you knew was going to be at least above that number? Tax rate? Yes. I was told it was going to be at least above 49 cents on 100.
Whoa.
You knew it weren't going to be below that. Well, I mentioned, I passed out the papers. So the state says should be about 39, be national taxes. So, one of the commissioners kind of said that not would be under 49 cents on 100. So you could probably figure 49 and above. That's going to be at, I don't know.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
I'd like to speak to that because there's been a couple of comments made about effective rate and revenue neutral. I just want to clarify that. So I'll try to speak up. Okay. So effective rate is used, and you'll see effective rate in our budget. I use effective rate every time I build a budget because we want you to be able to look at what counties around you, what their tax rate is, and we look at the effective rate. The effective rate looks at the sales ratio. That is what things are selling for as compared to what they were valued at. There's an 8-year cycle. Some folks, as you heard Lloyd say, some counties do it on 8 years, some counties do it on 7, some do it on 6, some do it on 4. I don't think anybody goes less than 4 because it's so expensive to do reevaluations. The effective rate is taking the sales ratio and multiplying it times your current tax rate. And what that does is that allows you to get apples to apples across the entire state, because it looks at where Beaufort County is in its 8-year cycle by looking at the sales ratio times your current tax rate, and it drops it or makes it change so that you can say, how does our tax rate compare to Charlotte-Mecklenburg? Charlotte-Mecklenburg may be on a tax valuation schedule of 4 years. So an effective rate helps you look across the entire state and say, apples to apples, here's how we rank across the state. Revenue neutral is a formula that's set, so those are completely two different things. So the number that you're talking about, the effective rate, doesn't have anything to do with revenue neutral. Revenue neutral is a number that you calculate based on a spreadsheet that's provided by the LGC that shows what your average growth has been over the years that you've had revaluation, and then what that number has to be on your tax rate to bring it down to equal the same amount of taxes, including that last year of growth. So try not to confuse the two, because effective.
I know the rate's going to be 0.49 at least.
No. We haven't run the. You're paying 62 and a half. Okay. But what I'm saying is this. Just listen for a second. So the revenue neutral number hasn't even been calculated yet because we don't have the final value. So it's well, that's what I'm getting ready to get to. So the Board of Equalization and Review meets starting April the 28th, and they go through May the 12th. For us to build our budget and for us to know what that revenue neutral number is, we've got to have that total value. Now, when you go to the Board of E&R, they're going to look at you and they may say, okay, we'll reduce that value. Well, if we build a number before we know what that final value is, then it screws everything up. So there's a point in time, sometime after May the 12th, where Lloyd's going to say to us, okay, we think we're good on the number. The board has adjusted as much as they're going to adjust for people. Now we know what the final number is. Then we can plug it into that formula and figure out what the revenue neutral tax rate is. And I can't.
Under 49, what I was told.
It will definitely be under 49.
Okay, that's later.
So we can't definitively say what a number is going to be yet. And it's not that we're trying to hide anything. We just don't have the numbers yet. You've got to, the more information you have, the better off you are. We could take a swag, but that's not the way we want to do things. So you got to let the board get through what they got to do. You got to let us get the final numbers, and then we can tell you what that revenue neutral number is. Again, tonight is talking about valuation. I don't think the value's right. Maybe something's wrong with the square footage. Maybe something's wrong with the condition. You've heard Lloyd talk about how they build that value, how it's created. So if there's something wrong with that, then go to them, because they're trying to make it right. You want it to be right, and we want it to be right. So
I misunderstood.
no, that's, yeah. Right. We've tried to encourage elected officials from the county side and from the municipal side to please say, everybody hold on, let us get the numbers. We got to get a number first, and we got to get that with as much information as we can. You certainly don't want us building a budget number with changes, with massive changes that may occur. You know, if you go to the Board of Commissioners through Board A&R and they change a lot of stuff on values, then our number changes, and we want to be as precise as we can. So.
I agree with that, but at the end, they vote for it.
That's correct. So
you can say what you think it should be, but at the end of the day, they can vote what they want.
That's correct. There will be, as I said earlier, the General Assembly was very clear in the way they wanted it. They didn't want people to be able to play games with you, because I've seen it happen. In a previous county I was in, we had a municipality. We did reevaluation. The municipality left their tax rate the same thing. They left their tax rate. Just think about that. Just like y'all have done that calculation in your head. You said, my rate went up this much and I keep the same tax rate. They kept the tax rate the same, and they told their citizens, we didn't change the rate. We didn't change your rate. We didn't raise your taxes, and they didn't lie to them. They didn't raise their tax rate, but they did raise their taxes. So that's why the General Assembly said, you've got to fill out this form. And you can go online and get it. Go to Department of Revenue, LGC, they have a spreadsheet. You can download it and do it yourself. But we plug those numbers in, and it will tell us precisely. Everybody across the state uses it. This is what the revenue neutral number is. And then you can look at that number and say to the Board of Commissioners, my tax rate is higher than that, or your tax rate, the tax rate you've adopted for the budget is either higher than that. That means you raise my taxes. Is it lower than that? You lowered my taxes. Is it the same? You say to revenue neutral. So it's done that way so that there's not confusion, because it can be very complicated and people can play games with you on the numbers. And what we don't want to do is play games with the numbers.
I have a question.
Yes.
A simple question. I grew up on a farm. It's 8 miles from here, and it's been in my family for 150 years. And it's nothing to do with valuations or anything like that. My question is this is not Raleigh or Charlotte or any of those places. People here, the poverty rate's pretty high. And a lot of people are going to lose their house because of this evaluation. It's going to do it. They're going to get out and have to walk out, like somebody said earlier very well, that these people cannot afford to pay this the question I'm going to ask you, I'm sorry, is this extraordinary increase in taxes? Is this extraordinary? Go back to the last 50 years. Is this extraordinary? I think it is. Yeah, it is. So if it's extraordinary, the changes of people's lives are going to be more dramatic than they would have been, let's say, the last 8 years. More dramatic. And my mother's 95 years old, and I know a lot of people that are elderly. They have houses they can barely afford to pay the gas, propane gas to heat the place, and they're going to be out of house. And what are we going to do for those people? I mean, a lot of big deals numbers, crucial numbers, this rate, that rate, and all that. That's not the problem. The problem is a lot of people are going to go from not being on welfare to being on welfare. They're going to be in houses they can't afford, and they're going to lose them. What is this county commission going to do to look after those people? Or just going to vote it up?
Mr. Chairman.
Okay, you need more money. How much more money are you going to have to pay for, volleyball courts or whatever? I don't know. That was my question.
It's too early to worry about
losing property over taxes. Because as we just said here,
It starts now.
no, wait, you have to get the facts before you start complaining. And until you get a tax bill, you really, no.
It's too late at that point.
The taxes haven't been set yet for this year. They won't be set, as these guys have told you over and over and over again, until we finish the evaluation and then we decide what the rate will be. The rate, as he just told you, is going to go way down if we collect the same amount of taxes and spend the same amount of money that this county spent last year. And that is more than likely what is going to happen. So don't worry about people losing property. That is not going to happen with this tax thing. The elderly have some things that they can use. If they qualify, they can get a special reduction. Veterans can get a special reduction. So don't get carried away with losing property. That is not going to happen.
If they qualify.
Wait.
If a frog had wings, wouldn't bump his ass along the ground.
No.
If you got enough money, you're not going to qualify. Look.
Excuse me.
I have a question.
Now, I know it's not to say. Try, get the Social Security check. Now, not based on your salary, but based on little Rosie over there that's worked in the field all year long, and that's all the money she got, a little bit of tax paid here. And try living on her Social Security check and a little bit of money that she might get from somewhere else, food, house, taxes for county, try it, medicine, doctor's bill, and God help you, if y'all ain't on medicine from doctors, you blessed, beyond measure. Now try it, bud.
Come up here. Yes.
I have a question. What did this county collect last year in property taxes? And how much do they plan to increase that this year? How much did you collect last year from the people for property taxes? Million? 2 million?
It's more like 38 million, but I looked the number.
I'm just trying to get a ballpark figure.
All right. I think it's 42, Anita.
Well, I was way off.
Million or billion?
Million.
42 million.
42 million.
Correct.
Okay. What are you planning to do to increase that? What amount are you going to, that you're taxing the people, that you're going to spend our money on? We want to know.
Now, keep in
You already
mind,
got 42 million last year. How much more do you need?
keep in mind that Commissioner Dethridge, Commissioner Richardson both made motions to decrease our taxes, and I second those motions. We want to decrease our taxes and decrease the wasteful spending. Taxes.
Well, how about? Answer my question. How much are you planning? You're going to go past the 42 million. If you tell us you're going to 45, we know there's a $3 million increase in there and how it's going to be spread out.
Our intention is not to go past that. Our intention is not to.
I'd like to answer. Since my name was invoked, I'd like to answer. We've got 7 commissioners on this board. If you got 3 commissioners vote to lower taxes or cut wasteful spending, and the other 4, well, thank you, but the other 4 vote the other way, all our protestations will make no difference whatsoever. You know, we can write about it, argue about it, get grumpy about it, but until you elect more conservative commissioners that will stop waste, fraud, and abuse, you're still going to get higher taxes. That's just the way it works.
I think we've started at the top in our country now, and maybe we can take care of it.
Hallelujah, hallelujah.
The gentleman up front.
I have a question on valuation, back to that subject. So we have a number of tools available on the internet these days for looking at home values, past sales. This data comes from as far back as 10 years ago. Let's throw one out, Zillow, for instance, okay? It seems to me that it would be prudent and maybe a time saver effort saver to use that maybe as a sanity check. If not, I understand you have to have a specific process you go through, but if someone comes out and looks at a property and puts a value on it that's, throw a number out, $300,000, $400,000 more than it sold for 2 years ago, don't you think it'd be worthwhile just to go on the website and look at Zillow and say, well, what does this say? And then if there's a big discrepancy, you go, well, maybe we did something wrong here. And instead of putting that burden on everyone in the room to do your job in terms of checking the sanity of a number, because we're basing this all on market value, right? So
Yes.
it's supposed to be. Okay, go ahead.
So I'll answer to the mic, just so we have it on record, everything else. It's a good question. One, I'm not able to use Zillow. I mean, Zillow's a commercial tool, it's whatever as far as it goes.
But it happens to be fairly accurate and quite honest.
It's also not always accurate, and they'll even tell you that, they'll tell you that. So as far as you go, the commercial license would probably kill us to begin with. I don't think it's able to be used that way. What does happen is something similar, because Zillow is doing something similar to what I was telling these gentlemen earlier when we were talking about building the schedule. Zillow's actually looking at size adjustments in an area for size and things like that and other factors, and they put it in like a CMA, similar to how realtors do, and et cetera. I'm not saying that's a bad idea. I'm not going to tell you I've not looked at Zillow. I don't look at the estimate as much as I like to look at what's sold and see pictures and see comparisons. We do actually utilize that if possible. We do it when things sell, because one thing that's key is I don't want to use a sale that's not good. So to make sure it's good, we sometimes look to see if it was listed, if a realtor did it, if it was on Zillow. So I agree with you. We do utilize it as much as we can. We're limited legally on some things, but we try to actually make it. We also take people, several of y'all have, when you bring an appeal, if you want to bring some Zillow information, we don't always take just that estimate, but we're certainly going to look at what you provide us from it, as far as the houses around it, et cetera, like that. I think it's a good point. Also, Realtor's not bad, Movado, there's several others. And I try not to recommend any one, but even some of the local realtors have some stuff going on as far as that goes.
So, yeah, because if anyone wants to get an appraisal, like a bank appraisal, assuming you're going to buy a house, it's a $700 expense. So I don't think a lot of people around here are going to want to go spend that kind of money. And so if there's some alternatives that you can look at.
Yep. And again, we can provide data with a simple question too, as I addressed to this man. I mean, if that was a question too, you know what I mean? If that's something
it just
we
seems
try.
like I'm hearing there's so many properties
Right.
that are so far off.
Right.
And I know from my perspective, personally, that
Just
the
over here.
number is just way off. Okay, and I will be appealing. I
Good.
think, it's early in the process. I think a lot of people wanted to wait for this meeting to happen and get more information out there with their neighbors and say, my guess is you'll be seeing a lot more.
A lot of this room is appealed, but I agree, the other half will after.
Right.
And they should, if there's a problem with the property. If there's something in that property, cannot stress enough that even a belief that there's comparables, more than one hopefully, but that are not in line or something, I agree with you. And you're on the right track. Provide that information. We're going to look at it.
Thank everyone. Our time has expired on this subject.
You still have 15 minutes on the hour.
One more in the back, two more, three more.
Is it anything different than what we've already heard?
Yes, I have a couple of different questions. Plus, you opened it for an hour. It's only 47 minutes in.
Okay.
It's just going to take me a minute or two.
All right.
I'm a newbie here. You all have put money into this town to attract new people, retired people. I'm a retired person, whether I look like it or not. I'm on a fixed income. We bought our property for the sole purpose of coming to a small town, affordable retirement place to live, the access to hospitals, health care, food cost. I mean, it just goes on endless when you're on fixed income. This lady back here spoke very well for that. But you all put a lot of money into this town to attract people to it. Now the people have come, they've bought your property, which is good for some of you. You've made out. Pay them taxes. But for us that have just came, our particular place, we're on 15th Street. We're finding out we bought into a different program. The road was going to be narrowed and traffic was going to be slowed down. It's going the other way around. Our home is in an eminent domain. We're losing our home.
Whoa.
That we bought, we thought was going to be our home place. Now, then you turn around and our taxes have tripled. Yeah, the rates haven't been set yet, but they're going to be there. And like you're saying, you know, we need to vote. We're new in this town, we're getting involved in the town, and we want to make this our home. We're paying city taxes, state taxes, federal taxes. You know, I tell you, my income's only $2,300 a month. Thank God I got a wife that gets some too. If it weren't for that, we wouldn't be in your nice little town. You know, and that's another view to look at for you all. I understand a lot of you got property that ain't worth putting a dog on. Your taxes have went up. That should be taken in consideration. Okay, now, property taxes go on a wave. They go up, they go down. They go up, they go down.
Really? Where you been? I've never seen them go down.
I've lost a home over on property. Just my $500,000 home went down to $30,000.
Sorry.
It happens.
Chemical spill?
Where was it?
No, it's in California. They tell you what happened. They built a whole complex. They built a whole complex overnight, twice the square footage. Everybody let their homes go to repo and bought them homes for less than what they were owing on their houses.
Thank you. The lady at the back. Yes.
My name is Dave Hudson. I'm from Bellhaven. My family's been here in Beaufort County for over 300 years. My seventh great-grandfather, Colonel James Bonner, founded the city. I think the issue these folks are having isn't just the revaluation, it's how that tax implication is going to come back on them. And that falls on you gentlemen sitting here in front of us.
That's right.
This has happened before. I lived in Charleston for 15 years, South Carolina, before I moved up here. They were raising taxes, taxing people out of their homes, calling eminent domain, whatever it took. I couldn't even afford to live in Charleston anymore, so I came back home where I thought things were back to normal. And we're seeing it happen here now. The concern is folks are moving from out of the area, they're coming in, they're driving up property values, which is going to drive up taxes. And then we're going to see that happen here. It's happened before. It happened from 1865 to 1880. Back then, those people were called carpetbaggers and scalawags. And they drove those taxes up, drove this state into a depression, into poverty that took almost a century to recover from. We're coming out of it, but we're still having issues. We're wasting $500,000 on 4 acres of land to build a new school we don't need that was not planned for. Where's that money going to come from? Until we root out fraud, waste, abuse, and incompetence, we're going to continue to have these problems. And so my challenge to these gentlemen is, do not repeat the mistakes of the past. It does not repeat itself, but it does rhyme. And that's what I implore you to do. Take care of these people who elect you to represent them, because that's your job. You report to them, not the other folks. Thank you.
Thank you. The lady with the blue top? Yes.
My question is, do you all care about the citizens? We are the people. I just bought a house here. I love my house. There's a house that's built behind me. I live in Washington. And that house is probably around maybe 3,000 square feet. So I'm certain that value of that house is higher. So I want to make certain that I understand that the tax value on that house is not going to affect the ones that's around. Yes, we voted, but we want to make sure that your concerns are our concerns. And we want to know that you all care for the citizens. Like, we live here and we love where we live at. And that's my question. Do you care? Do you care what's getting ready to happen? Because we know that it's going to be an impact. And we thank God that God sits on the throne, but we just want to know if you care. And are you really, really taking a look at the numbers? And is it going to be accurate once the numbers are in? And we don't want to know a month later that our taxes have tripled and now we got to jump on it. And that's not.
Okay. Thank you very much, and we're gonna take.
It's on the clock. I've been on a stopwatch since you opened up for an hour.
You guys gonna stay here until 12 o'clock with the rest of us from the rest of the agenda?
You motioned for an hour. I've just got a stopwatch that says I have 5 minutes left.
I think he's got we need to add another minute to that.
Government, the Constitution gives us that right, and we're not finished.
Hallelujah.
Me again. I know between 2018 to 24, that's when this evaluation period, right? You have to think, COVID hit in there. When COVID hit, there was no building, and if you were trying to find a home, the house prices jacked up. Now, the house prices are coming down. I've been looking, and they'll drop down $10,000, $20,000. COVID from 20 to 23, if you bought a house, you better be prepared to pay $40,000 or $50,000 more than it was actually worth. I know it. So you got to look at the idea of when this evaluation, the period it covered, and what it's doing now. People's houses that they might have paid a lot for are not as valuable now because they're beginning to come back down. We fought COVID. Do we have to fight you too?
Yeah. Values are going to drop.
May I approach the mic and ask you a couple questions?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Board, Commissioners. My name's Al Dentino. I live here in Washington. Been here about 6 years now. I greatly love this town.
Excuse me. Let's wait until everybody gets quiet. All right.
As I stated, my name's Al Dentino. I moved here from Virginia. Been here 6 years. Love Washington. Great people, great community. I have a couple of small, direct questions, and Mr. Alligood, maybe you can help me with the first one. In regards to the budget, what's been the average growth of the county budget per year, on average?
We typically have been below 3%. I mean, it's been 2 or 3% based on inflation, and you can go back and look at our I couldn't tell you off the top of my head, but in general, 2 to 3%.
That gives me enough information. And how much of either Mr. Alligood or one of you gentlemen, how much of a surplus do we currently have?
I'll let Anita address that because a lot of people get confused. There's numbers that's thrown out there, and some of the money is restricted. It's already been allocated, so Anita, you want to address that? She's our chief financial officer.
When you say surplus, do you mean fund balance in the bank,
money
like our
over and
savings
above
account?
what you have for expenditures.
We have a balanced budget. In North Carolina, you have to have a balanced budget, so our revenues equal our expenditures.
Okay.
And when the commissioners set the tax rate, then the tax levy revenue that comes in offsets the expenditures for the county. And many of our expenditures, we have no option about providing most of the services that we provide. Department of Social Services, that is a mandated service that the county has to provide. Public health, the county has to provide. As far as the sheriff's office goes, the law requires that the board give him 2 deputies. So if we wanted to save some money in the county, sure the sheriff wouldn't agree with this.
Well, I'm not saying, asking you for that, but I've heard talk that there's a surplus
But I'm just saying,
or money.
there are certain expenditures within our budget that we have no control over. They are
understand.
mandated
The
that we
gentleman's talking about
provide
the rainy day
services.
fund. You're talking about the rainy day fund, the fund
Whatever
balance.
balance or if it
I understood what he's
exceeds-
talking about. You're talking about the fund balance.
Mr. Commissioner, he said revenues over expenditures, but if you do want the rainy fund balance, that is our savings account. Like many individuals have a savings account, the county has a savings account in case we have a shortfall in revenues and we need to go to our savings account. In case we have a natural event like a hurricane and we need to have a savings account. We have about $28 million in our savings account. That is within the policy.
Wait a minute, Anita. Listen to the rest of the story, okay?
That is actually within the normal recommended amount of a 35% fund balance that a town
Is that
or
what
county our
they
size
recommend?
has. We're right at a 35% fund balance. And that is normal for a county our size.
That's the board's policy, is 35%.
And that is our board's policy.
That is by a vote of 2 against 5, or 5 against 2.
Man, North Carolina on that, they do have,
So the only point I wanted to make is that we have some, let's say, call it a rainy day fund, a slush fund, a cushion, right? I would just ask you gentlemen, when y'all go to work on that tax rate, as you hopefully will lower it to reflect and meet the revenue neutral point, some of the other things that people have brought up here today, like the COVID issue people brought up, the fixed income population, the fact that such a large percentage of our population is living below or at the poverty line. Because if not, you're going to see a turnover here, and it may not be the kind of folks you want to have moving in. Hopefully you don't mind me. I've been here 6 years now. Nobody's tried to run me out of town. So,
we're the cause, though, buddy.
pardon?
We're to blame, and they're out.
Well, and that's what I'd like to close with. Gentlemen, this is not an inquisition, but I would like to ask you a question, and I would like to see a show of hands. I'd like to know how many of you, if not all of you, are you willing to pursue cutting waste, fraud, and abuse in the way of spending and taxes for next year's budget? I'm looking for the hands. I'm looking for the hands. Keep them up. Hopefully the camera has it. And so, gentlemen, why would I not see your hands?
One of the things that
When you go to vote again, you know who to vote for.
one of the things you have to keep in mind is that, you know, we have employees, we have fuel, we have cars. I mean, we're affected by inflation and competition.
That's got nothing to do with waste, fraud, and abuse.
Well,
so why would you not at least pursue it and make sure that everything is above board, running as lean as you can? We're being asked to do that, not just by you, but by other costs. The economy, I'm not going to name names, but certain economic policies of the past. So all I'm asking you to do is take into consideration what we're dealing with and hopefully find some places where you can cut so that you don't have to raise taxes. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, the time is up, and
Look up the information on how much their government employees make, what their salaries
Their
are,
salaries have to be cut in here,
percentage-wise
too.
above the private sector. Some of them are making 281% higher than the private sector.
once again, we thank you. I mean, we could go like this for another 3 or 4 hours, 3 or 4 days.
Point of order, Mr. Chairman.
I don't think there's anybody up here that has not heard everything that you said tonight. I've heard it individually, and I've talked to older people. Everybody, farmers, you name it. And I can tell you, we are going to do our best to try to make it fair. But the only way that you can address your individual, and you've heard it already, you have got to do the appeal, and you've got to try to make sure that anything that's wrong with your property, that you see Lloyd's group or the people that are here now, and you try to get those things corrected. Now, I don't know how we're going to correct something that there's a house in the swamp. Maybe we can figure that one out. But we're going to try to be fair on this. We were before. The only difference was, and listen to this, at the last one, the total value in this county went down 1%. Went down 1%. So we didn't have people coming here like this. Total values went down 1%. I'm going to tell you since I think you need to know this, because I've had people ask what happened to my bill. On my 6 acres and my wife, our bill or our value doubled. It doubled. Our house now is valued at $110 a square foot. Okay? It doubled from 55 to 110. It stayed at 55 for almost 15 years. Almost 15 years. Because when we did it before, the values were down 1%. And this time, they're up. So, anyway.
Point of order, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much.
Point of order. Take a break. Point of order. Point of order. Point of order. Let me speak. May I speak?
Yes.
Okay. We've had a lot of conjecture and commentary, a lot of it by the commissioners. If there's anybody else wanting to speak, I think we should let them speak, maybe 3 more people. If you want to cut them off, cut them off. But I think we should allow 3 more people to speak. Tricia wanted to speak earlier, and you cut her off. Is there anybody else want to speak?
We're gonna take our break, and then we're coming back and go back to the agenda. I'm getting it. We're going to get started back again. The next item is the updates from the elected officials, and we have neither our senator or representative here. The next item is items for consent. Is there any item that you would like to pull? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Those opposed?
7-0.
All right. Okay, we're down to items for decision. Lloyd, you're back up.
Deja vu.
Okay, you guys turn to page 174 because he's going to be going over the dates.
Okay, this is pretty simple compared to what we've talked about so far. So basically, we're going to go ahead and set some Board of Equalization and dates. We'll work out the times, although normally we try to swing for the 5 to later, whatever as far as the times go. We had discussed maybe doing one day one, but we can get on to that at some point, just, for people who can't do evenings, but that's up to the board, of course. But these are the dates we're discussing. So I've got a couple. As a reminder, only 4 commissioners are needed to attend, but I do need to know that I have 4 ahead of time, so we can cancel or remove people. The following dates suggested are, and I actually mean for all these. I don't mean to pick them. I mean for all these dates. So it's Tuesday, April 29th, Tuesday, May 6th, Thursday, May 8th, Tuesday, May 13th, Wednesday, May 14th, Monday, May 19th, Monday, May 26th, and Thursday, May 29th. And I'll repeat that. Tuesday, April 29th, Tuesday, May 6th, Thursday, May 8th, Tuesday, May 13th, Wednesday, May 14th, Monday, May 19th, Monday, May 26th, and Thursday, May 29th. And I think we did look at calendar to make sure there wasn't anything across the board that we saw on those dates for you gentlemen.
I'll start the first one. I'm not going to be available on May the 8th, and I'm here again. If you got 4, I'm assuming everybody else is okay with that.
I'm good with it.
Okay.
All of it.
So Anybody else have a particular day that,
I said May 19th, May 26th, and May 29th.
And Lloyd, May 26th is Memorial Day, just in case you didn't know.
I did not. I'm sorry. May
That is
26th is
Monday.
out then.
So, May 6th, I got an issue.
okay, is everybody else good with May the 6th?
Yeah, April 29th, I can't be here, but I can be here any other time. You did say May 19th would be the last day, but I see you've added.
No. So the way that actually works is, as far as it goes, your first day of BR, as I'd said, when we did email, because it really gets confusing. Your first day of Board Equalization Review technically will be the other date that you already voted on, which I believe is the 28th, I believe. I'm looking at,
Right.
at
It's the 28th.
The 28th was the date that we had voted on. That's not on here because we already voted on it. So after the 28th, these are the other dates. You actually can go as long as you have scheduled, Board, as long as we have put those on the schedule before your adjournment date,
I'm
which
going to
was
miss the 28th as well.
No, it's
28th, 29th.
May.
April, sorry.
No, sir. Your opening date is in April. That'll be your first date, the 28th.
I'll miss that.
Okay.
That's fine.
And then you have a date in May, off the top of my head, I think 15th. I'm sorry, got a lot going on with that. We've got it on the website, but I'm going to try to find it real quick. That'll be the last date we can, how to put this? That's just, you have to have all of them in by that date. I believe it's 15th.
Okay.
So you have to have all the applications
Got
in.
it.
But you can hear it for the rest of the year. These are just the dates we know that we feel we're going to have a need for, as far as, numbers and et cetera.
I have a question.
Sure.
How many hours are we looking to meet each time?
I think we discussed 3 to 4. We can work that out amongst y'all.
I think three's going to, a full 3 if we do well. We're going to be pretty wasted after that.
I think that at the moment, we were only thinking 4 to 6 people per hour. So, it depends.
Okay.
We might be able to do a little more, but what I'm thinking is we look at that in the first couple times, because obviously we can set the dates. We can work around with that a little bit as we schedule, still giving people time to schedule.
Now, you're going to book people, you're going to book people tight so that we're not sitting in here waiting.
We can discuss that. It was thought that we would want enough that you still have the time, and I don't think we want to do anything like a cattle call. I don't think you want like 8 people waiting, at a time. So,
No, but we
so I
need 1 or
agree with
2 is
you.
not a problem,
Yeah,
because you don't know how long they're going to take. Some of them are going to be real quick, and some of them are going to take a while,
I
so.
completely agree. That's why we had discussed maybe something like 6 an hour. But again, if we get in there,
That's great.
if that doesn't work, we can trim that or change that as we go. It shouldn't be hard.
I would offer this time, people are going to show up more than they normally do.
Yeah, 4 to 6. We can work those numbers out. The dates are the important part, but we can get the rest scheduled or calendar between us. No
And these are
problem.
the people that were not satisfied or
Yes, sir.
the informal thing.
Yes, sir. And you'll have some commercial reps around town that don't do informal. They just don't do this process. They're going to skip right to the Board of Equalization Review. So you'll have some of that, and you'll have some people who just can't come to an agreement.
Are we going to scrap May the 26th or leave it?
I missed that. Thank you.
If it's Memorial Day, we're going to have to
Yeah.
scrap it.
Okay.
We know we work, it'll be all right.
The rest of it, we're going to leave as is.
And I'll show up next month. We'll talk about June. It's just, whatever.
Yeah, I move we accept the dates that have been presented by the tax assessor, with the exception of May the 26th.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor, raise your right hand. Thank you, Lloyd.
Thank you.
All right, the next one is the public hearing on the petition to name a road. Joshua? As he's coming up here, we need a motion to go into the public hearing on naming of the road.
So moved.
Do I have a second? All those in favor of going into the public hearing, raise your right hand. Thank you. Joshua?
Good evening. I've got a petition to name a road that was submitted by a Kaylee Dwyer. It's to assign a name to an existing private 50-foot easement. This action is necessitated by a pending address application for a parcel that's currently accessed via this unnamed easement. And per the county's road naming and addressing ordinance, the unnamed easement serving a third address should be designated a private road and assigned an official name. The attachments along with it are the petition with the property record details, the advertisement language that was published in the Washington Daily News and then also posted at the Beaufort County Courthouse. And it was publicly noticed in compliance with the North Carolina General Statutes, published in the Washington Daily News on February 26th and March 5th, satisfying the requirement that the notice be published at least 10 days prior to the date of the hearing, excluding the publication date, and then also meeting the same requirements as far as the Beaufort County Courthouse postings. And then per the county's road naming and addressing ordinance, the applicant is required to submit 3 names and then obtain the signatures from the majority of property owners. The petition satisfies these criteria, and the proposed name listed in order of preference is 1, MacArthur Lane, and 2, Bow Wow Lane, and then 3, Papa Lane. After reviewing the petition and confirming compliance with the county's ordinance, staff recommends approval of MacArthur Lane as the official road name for the private road. That should be everything. If there's any questions on that.
I got a question.
Sure.
So, how do you spell MacArthur? Because I see it spelled 2 different ways.
I called the applicant about that, and the main person that lives right on the entrance to that private road, his name is actually MacArthur, but with the UR, but he's always spelt his name with the ER. So that was the decision for why they wanted to go with the MacArthur ER instead of the typical spelling.
Well, the staff has got UR.
That's under the recommendation. I don't know whether you have that or not.
Look, for simplicity's sake, we need to stay as close as we can to the accepted legal names. I mean, making this little change, all it does is causes a lot of confusion to people.
I'm just trying to...
Yeah, I understand. I'm with you.
The staff's recommendation is UR.
I think that's a misprint, is that correct? It
I've
should
got
be
ER on my sheet.
Okay.
Okay.
It should be ER.
They might have thought it was a misprint on my part and might have corrected it.
What is General MacArthur is UR.
Yeah, typically, and that's how the legal name of the applicant.
Let's
that
keep
lives
it
on
with the
road.
legal names. Making these exceptions, these funny spelling things, just causes confusion, and that's what you're trying to avoid with this ordinance.
And just in case, if that's not a name that they wanted to go with, if the UR for some reason makes them not want to go with that one, Papa Lane was also another one that
No, let them
complied.
come back and petition again for the spelling that they want, if they want to go that far out. I don't think they will object to MacArthur. MacArthur, you admitted, is their legal spelling.
Correct.
So, okay.
And as for Papa Lane,
I was just going to say that one was also another one that
I
complied.
realize that, but I also know that within 1,000 yards of my house, there is a Papa Lane. So you might want to, even though it's not an official recognized one, there are more than one Papa Lanes that people are putting up their own signs in. So that could get confusing also.
Well, we have to close the meeting before we can have a motion, so if you close the meeting, I'll make a motion.
Wait. Anybody else have a question? Okay. We had no one sign up, to my knowledge, for the public comment on the change in the name. Is there anyone here that would like to make a comment?
I was just going to make a note that Papa Lane that would be approved would be in the 911 system, whereas the homemade signs would not be.
Okay. Need a motion to come out of the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All those in favor of coming out of the public hearing, raise your right hand.
I move we name the road MacArthur Lane, spelled with a U.
UR.
UR.
Okay. Do I have a second? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Yes, sir. The next items are from Public Works, and I see Christina's coming first. She's going to talk to us about the fiscal year 25 facilities funding request. So,
Yes, sir. Commissioners, good evening. This is a continuation of a discussion that we started during the planning retreat a couple of weeks ago. Recognizing the advanced age of the county's building systems, the Board of Commissioners and staff have worked diligently the past few years to replace equipment and to make necessary repairs to strengthen the reliability and the resiliency of all of our buildings. This year, the cost of repairing and/or replacing existing building systems during the fiscal year 2025 will exceed budgeted values due to multiple unexpected equipment failures and the rising cost of equipment and supplies. Many HVAC components, many units, such as boilers, chillers, and HVAC split units, as well as fire alarms and plumbing systems have malfunctioned or failed. Therefore, staff requests additional funds be reallocated from the existing overall fiscal year 25 budget. And that is, again, we make that request so that we can continue servicing the buildings and making needed repairs that occur between this date and June 30th.
How much?
Oh, I'm sorry.
$85,000. 85.
So, motion to approve.
Okay, got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the budget amendment reallocating $85,000, please raise your right hand. Thank you. And Wes, you're going to talk to us about the solid waste ordinance revision.
Yes, sir. Good evening, Commissioners. So as pretty much, I'm sure you all are aware, the revised solid waste ordinance took effect on January 1st of 2024. So we've been working with that for a little over a year. Calls started off a little slow, but they've been picking up as people become more familiar with that. But we've received many phone calls where residents are complaining about properties with accumulation of what we're calling junk material. Just to briefly summarize what those materials could be, scrap building materials, scrap metal, boat and car parts, old furniture, pallets, tires, etc. Any number of things. I could keep going on for a while. After performing investigations on these properties that have been called in, and review of those findings in conjunction with the current ordinance, reviewing those with the county attorney, it's been determined that the definitions and the language of our ordinance as written don't really provide us a way to address these complaints. Just to kind of give you a track of how we're seeing that, our current definitions include solid waste, which is any material no longer used for its originally intended purpose, which will be discarded, treated to reclaim its original properties, or processed to be used for an alternative purpose. We then go on to say trash or garbage are terms that are frequently used in place of solid waste. So if you then reference garbage in our ordinance, it means all putrescible waste, including animal carcasses and recognizable industrial byproducts, but excluding sewage and human waste. So then we further reference putrescible waste, and I won't go into the whole definition, but waste means solid waste that contains organic matter capable of being decomposed by microorganisms, causing obnoxious odors, capable of providing food for birds or animals. And that term does not include uncontaminated yard waste or clean wood. So what we have come up with, referencing other ordinances around the state and the nation, is some proposed revisions to our current ordinance that would allow us to look at these properties and address those complaints. Attached to the agenda item is where those revisions are proposed. What we would recommend is if these items are acceptable, we'd have to bring this back. Tonight would constitute the first reading of the revisions. Next month would be the second reading where it could be adopted. And then we would propose July 1 of 2025 as an effective date. That would allow us some time to get some messaging out there saying these changes are coming. Go ahead and start working on cleaning up your property while you can before we have to come in and write you a letter. So again, if approved tonight, it would need to come for a second reading at the April meeting. If y'all desire, I have some pictures to kind of show the what we're looking at here, kind of explain why we think one versus the other, or if not, I'll take any other questions.
Yes.
Okay, that we would be able to clean up a lot under this if we had to and put a lien on the lot. That would still apply.
It would follow all other aspects of the ordinance, and that is one thing that's in our ordinance.
All right, second question. When does a mobile home and a car become junk?
That would be subject to a separate ordinance, which we're still in the final processes of reviewing those before we present those. This is strictly your loose items, your mattresses, your, like I say, car and boat parts.
And we still have a provision in the ordinance still applies that if your junk, waste, or whatever is valuable to you, you can put a screen around it and it can stay there.
Yes, so the revised language, or the proposed language would allow for 3 exceptions. If your junk is completely screened from public view and it's not posing any other fire or safety or public health hazard, then you can have it. If it's stored in a building, enclosed building with only doors that you can go in and out of, not under a shelter where everybody can see it, you can have whatever you want in there. And also, if, let's say you're moving out of your property and you throw some stuff on the lawn, if it's there for more than 30 days, then it's when we can address it. If it's less than 30 days, we couldn't do anything about it.
Any questions, comments? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the revisions to the solid waste ordinance. Do I have a second?
Second.
And a second. Any other comment? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Thank you. Those opposed? Okay. I'm sorry, Ed, I didn't.
Well, we'll be back with this again next month.
All right.
All right, thank you.
Next items for decision are coming from the sheriff's office. So Sheriff Hammonds, and we got Chief Gary Brand and Captain Shane Miller.
Thank you, Chairman and Commissioners. It's a nice discussion with Chief Deputy. He's going to go through it. Is our deputy trainee program. We'd like to for you to listen to our reasoning due to shortages of recruits and the hardship of us recruiting in. I'm going to go ahead and let Chief Deputy Brown go ahead and introduce the program and answer your questions.
Because we've been here for a lengthy time tonight, I'm not going to read it verbatim for you, but I'm going to just go through it for you. As the sheriff said, this is a request to use vacant deputy positions to establish a deputy training program. What that deputy training program consists of is an individual wishing to become a deputy will submit an application with the Beaufort County Sheriff's Office. The applicant would be required to meet the following mandatory requirements that are on page 2. The first one, the applicant must be a resident of Beaufort County. The applicant must be at least 20 years old. The applicant must pass a preliminary background investigation. The applicant must meet all prerequisite requirements needed to enroll in a BLET program. The applicant must attend the BLET program at Beaufort County Community College. If it's available, there may be times where it's not available. The applicant must agree to sign a 36-month employment agreement with the Beaufort County Sheriff's Office. If the applicant meets the mandatory requirements, the applicant will be hired as a deputy trainee and fill a vacant deputy position. Once hired, the deputy trainee will be a full-time employee of the Beaufort County Sheriff's Office with full benefits as a civilian employee. Because the deputy trainee is not sworn, the deputy trainee will not receive the 401k contribution of 5% by the Beaufort County until the deputy trainee completes BLET, all the certification requirements, and is sworn in as a deputy for the Sheriff's Office. And as you can see below that, we put in some needs for this deputy training program, and the first one is a pretty tough need. As previously stated earlier in in the synopsis, the basic law enforcement training has been increased by 268 or 228 hours over what it was mandated before, and that began on January the 1st. So now the basic law enforcement training is 868 hours. With the added hours, full-time BLET programs run approximately 5 months and a little bit over. That's for the daytime, full-time programs. The nighttime programs were pushed into 10 months and longer. And because of that, most community colleges aren't offering a nighttime program anymore. Beaufort Community College is one of those colleges that aren't offering that. So that makes it difficult for people that are qualified individuals that have full-time jobs to go to be law enforcement officers at night because it's not offered. Currently, numerous law enforcement agencies throughout eastern North Carolina are using the trainee program to recruit, hire, and retain qualified individuals to attend BLET programs. Their practices have directly affected the Beaufort County Sheriff's Office and Beaufort County because some of these individuals reside in Beaufort County but are forced to seek employment outside of our county. I think everyone in here has probably seen a law enforcement vehicle from an outside county agency. But I can contest to Martin County Sheriff's Office has hired at least 3 people that still live in Beaufort County that they are putting through BLET right now by using a trainee program like this. Having a deputy trainee program will increase the marketability for Beaufort County Sheriff's Office. The Sheriff's Office will be able to use the program to recruit local qualified individuals from within the county. It will also give the Sheriff's Office additional incentives to offer qualified law enforcement officers in an effort to retain them in our county. And again, if you remember, one of the mandatory requirements is they must be a resident of our county. We're not going to do this for people that live outside of the county. We want this to be an incentive for our people to stay in our county. Most importantly, the deputy trainee program will come at no additional cost to the taxpayers of Beaufort County because we will be using vacant deputy positions to fill with the trainees. In closing, by allowing the Beaufort County Sheriff's Office to incorporate the deputy trainee program, the Sheriff's Office will be in a better position to recruit, hire, and retain qualified law enforcement officers from within Beaufort County. Sheriff's Office will also be more competitive with other agencies that are currently using trainee programs to recruit qualified enforcement officers from within our county.
Questions of Chief Brand?
So you're proposing to bring them in at a full deputy salary?
At the base salary.
At the base salary.
Yes, sir.
So ECU has a trainee rate. New Bern has a trainee rate. Greenville has a trainee rate. New Bern's trainee rate is $2,500 less than their base salary. New Bern is $8,000 less than their base salary. Greenville is $10,000 less than their base salary. I looked it up this weekend.
I looked it up also. I didn't see that, but I'm not going to argue that it probably is.
I looked at Greenville's pay schedule. Now, I will say that they advertise $52,000 as their starting salary, but on their pay schedule, it says it's $49,940.
Well, they're showing, and they told me $52,436 was their base.
Well, that's what they're advertising, but they're, according to the City of Greenville's pay schedule, which they published January the 1st, it's not that high.
Okay.
My question is, why can we not establish a trainee rate instead of bringing them in at full schedule?
You can do just that. And then you're dropping from a 46,000 starting pay, it's what, 44,000. So
493 is what our base starting rate is.
But your base is 42,577?
Our higher rate is, yes, 42. That's our hiring rate. We got a 44,493.
Is our hiring rate.
Okay. Years
last
ago, and, you know, it might have changed. I know to be a sworn police officer, you had to be BLET certified. But to be a deputy sheriff, you did not have to be BLET certified for a year. Has that changed?
That has, yes, changed.
So,
Second last year, we lost that privilege.
Ed?
But to make us competitive, it's going to take, because they're already, our surrounding counties are already looking at a 6 to 10% pay increase for this year, and we just, I didn't argue that. I said, they're going to supersede us again by another 4,000.
It's the leapfrog. It happens, they do it for law enforcement, they do it for EMS also. Back and forth, back and forth.
Well, money, yeah, you're going to take me down that road, money ain't everything, but I can tell you, Commissioner, it takes a quality of salary to get them one higher.
Ed?
I got a question.
Yes, sir.
Brown, Officer Brown. This trainee program, we furnishing them a car, guns, and everything?
There will not be a sworn position, so they will not be certified.
Are we furnishing them cars and everything?
Not in the training program, and we can't furnish them a gun. They won't be sworn, so they can't carry a gun as a sworn deputy.
Okay.
And using the word furnished, no.
But they will have insurance and uniform?
Yes, sir. They will be wearing the BLET uniform that all BLET students have to wear at the college. But they will be full employees, so yes, they will have insurance.
What sort of thing will you have them doing during the day when they're not in school? Or will they be doing anything?
That's a 5-month program, and they go basically all day, 8 hours a day. And sometimes they may be off during the week if they have weekend firing range time, driving time, things like that. But that's a full-time job.
I know with the trainees with the fire department, you know, they have them directing traffic and, you know, doing odds and ends jobs. Is there time for them to do that too?
Side jobs?
Yeah.
No, they will be.
No, for the sheriff's department.
That's a full-time. The BLET now is 868 hours. It's full-time.
So we get no benefit from them other than at the end of
But now they got to buy in because they're signing an agreement, a 3-year agreement. And the rate is 10% on year 1, 7 on year 2, 4 on year 3. So, I mean, that's a buy-in to get them. It's their cost. But it is a program that's working and attracting candidates from our surrounding within driving distance. That we should have brought this to you a year ago when we were really struggling for it. But yeah, we're here in good faith tonight.
Okay, now, we're going to pay their way to go to school.
Yes, sir.
We're going to pay their tuition.
You're hiring them.
College has free tuition, remember?
No, but there's books and there's a lot of other fees and things that go. We're going to pay all of those other fees that.
Books are about
$650 for books. Registration fees $191.25, and the uniforms are running roughly around $150. Whoever the college is contracting with.
Now, and they're going to go to Beaufort Community College if it's available.
If it's available, and the only time I can see it not being available is if they don't get enough number of students to have a BLET, then we would probably have to send them to probably.
No, okay, that was the next question.
That.
They're in driving distance of another college in order to do this. The only thing that I would like to see happen if you get into this program is somehow through the personnel department, I would like for any citizen of Beaufort County to be able to apply. I don't want going out and hand-picking people to apply. I think this, if you're going to do this, this is county money, and every citizen should be able to apply. And that would be done through our personnel department, right?
No, I hire everyone who comes into our.
The application would be through our personnel department.
We get that.
Why not? No, we're not going out and handpick people and pay special privileges and all this sort of thing. I've been commissioner for 28 years, and I've seen this happen in other departments where people, we suddenly need to fill a department and somebody goes out and hires the cousin, and then we pay for training him and all this sort of thing. We're not doing the special privilege thing as long as I'm here. And if you want to apply, and this board votes against me, you can apply to me. And I will take your case under the employment laws of the state of North Carolina to see to it that you're served equally as any other citizen of Beaufort County.
Got no problem with that. That's the presentation we have.
Well, I mean, I don't have a problem, but we got to talk about fairness in this.
Yes. And we are subject to fairness, equal opportunity anyway. This is no different than me going through it, using what I mean. It goes through an application process. A board, we have a very structured board process, and you're welcome to sit, well, no, you can't. You can't sit on that board. It's just a personnel matter.
Officer Brown, BLET at Beaufort County is only offered so many times a year. When is the next beginning class?
It just started, and the next class will be this class will end July 17th, so possibly August. Don't know. They don't have a date for it.
So this program will be instituted in August?
That's right. And we didn't put that in the requirements, but we're not going to hire someone just to hire them and wait till BLET. We'll make sure there's a BLET starting within a week or so.
So at this point in time right now, if we couldn't wait till budget time come, well, we could too, because it got to be July the 30th if it's August. But you're not going to hire anybody until August.
We're not going to hire anybody in this trainee program
until August.
I would say, ask you to consider this. You pin me down to that. You know, we're in the highs, the valleys, and the peaks of...
I'm trying to be honest with you now.
Oh, absolutely.
Now don't make me come out and say what I want to say.
Say it.
Commissioner Booth, we have a closed session personnel matter to discuss.
Okay. That's the reason I was asking these questions.
Thank you.
Well, I would want, before we vote on this, to see the pay rate issue worked out on this board, and I would like to see any citizen to apply to make sure this is going to go through the county personnel department, so that we've got records on who applied from the standpoint of being fair to everyone in the county.
I understand what you're saying. Don't you do your own hire?
We do.
Okay, but that's fine. He's got the final say on it. But I'm talking about the applicants. I'm talking about the special privileges for special people, and I've seen too much of that. I want to get out of that. He can pick whoever he wants to, but I want, when the people show up on employment opportunity, to be able to show them the file, rather than I applied and nothing happened. I've heard all of those stories. I know exactly how this thing's going to work. But the application process should come through the county personnel office, and then the applicants are delivered to the sheriff, and he pick what he wants to pick. I'm trying to put some controls on this for the protection of the public.
Right now, if you take an application, does it go through the HR department, or does it go through your?
It goes through us from the beginning, and once that I've gone through, then we do submit it to Ms. Dolores and the Human Resource. And there's conversations between our HR and theirs.
So if it violates our policy.
So I guess, so if there is a desire by the board in this program that because they're going to have to designate certain slots. They're not going to open up every deputy slot for this. They may say, we've got 2 slots available, because if they take every empty slot they have and say, we're going to do this, then they've committed themselves for 6 months with getting nobody else in. So if a part of this program, and I'm just throwing this out there, if a part of that program is that the board wants those wants those applicants to send them as a group, because the sheriff's already said that he takes a group of applicants and they have a hiring committee that looks at them and evaluates them and says, we want to interview this person or hire this person. Then we can have an agreement with the sheriff's office that that list will be provided as a part of this program, so that for tracking purposes or something, if they want to do that. But typically, they do not come through us. They go through the sheriff's office when people apply to the sheriff's office. They apply directly to the sheriff's office. They go through that hiring process, and then county HR gets the final information from them when they say, we've hired this person, because the sheriff has the ability to hire and fire at will by statute.
I want to go back to the fair treatment statement, and that is, some people are told need not apply. Okay, I'm trying to get fairness into this thing.
You're saying that that's what they're saying today?
No, I'm saying I'm trying to avoid that. I'm trying to get fairness into this from the get-go.
Well, if I can bring some stats to you, I wasn't trying to take your time, but right now we're in the very best, historical best of where we have ever been in hiring. I've got 9 vacancies right now, over 3 departments. And it's not because I hire secondhand, because it's important to me before I put any of my deputies in harm's way and put them in a liability, that their partner is as qualified as the best that I can find. So to say handpicking, I don't even handpick them. The board has a scoring mechanism built into the interview process that's second to none. But that is how that's how these employees are hired at this office.
I understand. I don't have a problem with that. I'm just saying the first application should go to the HR department and they give them to the sheriff's department.
If the county will absorb all the expenses that I have to invest in it, which I know as you see, that's costing, you're right, that cost me dollars to choose a bad candidate.
I'm not arguing with what you're doing. I'm talking about entry-level candidates that get a fair shot at this.
Right.
All of them.
And another point, we use marketing like online, like Indeed is the one we chose.
Mm-hmm.
And I use that one as you apply electronically. You come in and you apply manually by a paper application. So we have mechanisms to weed out.
Well, I want to remind you that if there's ever a complaint from an applicant, while you're talking about what you've got invested, the county's got invested defending you after that point. And from the standpoint of fairness to all the citizens of the county and looking after the county's interest, it seems all of those applications should come to the county and they'll all be handed to you and you can do whatever you want to with them and come back with your selections. But I don't want to continue a process in this county that I know has been corrupt in the past. I'm trying to make sure that it's not corrupt in the future.
Well, as you were elected sheriff, that process stopped the day I was sworn.
But you're not going to live forever.
Well, that day will change when I'm not sheriff. But as long as I'm in this position, that day changed. In December of 2022.
I'm taking you at your word, but I'm talking about a management practice for the protection of personnel, protection of the people of Beaufort County, and to make sure that all of our citizens have a fair chance at the same thing.
Well, I've been a commissioner for almost 11 years, and I've never had any of the sheriffs, previous ones plus you, that has been,
that met those conditions,
that has said that it was done. They were cherry-picked and...
You can't do it.
Yeah. I mean, you have a process already in place.
Yes.
In place. Any other comments?
And I appreciate that.
Brian?
So I think the other piece of this is the employment agreement. And I would ask that you give us some opportunity to work with the county attorney to review that. I think we've got a model from another agency that talks about that's been reviewed, and just want to make sure the county attorney has an opportunity to look at that and sign off on it as well, because there's some legal implications about signing an agreement that you'll work for a certain amount of time, and I don't know all the ins and outs of that, but the county attorney certainly will.
Tandy. Mr. Manager, don't we have positions that do a work against?
We do have positions that have a work against, but they have the, like in DSS, but they have the basic qualifications for the initial position. And typically a work against is you may not have enough time in grade. You may be a social worker 1, but to be a social worker 2, you have to have 2 years in the position. So someone may have the educational background and the experience to do that, so we would hire them, and then they could do in a work against. But we don't have in our pay and classification plan now a trainee slot under law enforcement.
Right.
So that's why this was brought forward.
I thought we used to have one, but, my concern is we're not doing a work against, but we're paying him as if he is a fully sworn, because that's the base salary of our positions.
I would agree to that, in that if you look at other programs, they have discounted that a bit. They've taken it down just a little bit. That's something the sheriff has said in his program he doesn't want to do, but obviously if that's a negotiation between the board and the sheriff, maybe you can knock it down a couple thousand, because there probably ought to be a little incentive to say, okay, I know I'm coming in a little bit low because you guys are helping with this, and I'm going to stick around because I want to get that bump when I get there. Plus, there's an agreement that says they'll stay longer. So if that's something we can work out, not something that's terribly inhibitive, but something that's a couple $1,000s less, so that there is a little bit of a differentiation between a trainee and a brand new BLET certified deputy, right? So,
getting back to Officer Dunn, we did have this program in the county before, because I went through it. But the only difference was I had to work 8 hours a month for free. But that has changed now. I understand it's a good program, and the only thing that I have is, like me, I went through the county, and I found out I didn't like it. After I came, I stayed out there about 6 months to a year, but I used it as a feeder program to go where I retired at. But it's a beautiful program. But the problem and it's not a problem with me, if we send an individual to school and we pay him his salary, I don't have a problem with that either, long as he gets so that he don't want to work with our county anymore, because he have given us his time to go through the class. But is there any clawback that you have that if he says, I don't want to stay here, I want to go to another agency like I did, do you have any clawback for your money at that rate?
At his choosing, his or her choosing, it would, that agreement, if that agreement has any merit to it. That's what we're leaning towards to be our tool. If it doesn't, then we're going to learn some the proper, recommended.
So not to speak of Sheriff Commissioner Bates, but the model that I had looked at from another local, not a local, but a close around law enforcement agency that has a program like this, there is a 3-year agreement. In the first year, if the employee leaves within the first year on their own volition, then there's a certain amount that has to be paid back. If they leave in the second year, there's a lesser amount that has to be back. If they leave in the third year, there's a lesser amount. And then once they cross the 3-year mark, then they're just like every other employee. There are some stipulations in there that, if for the good of the county or the sheriff's office, that person needs to be dismissed, then there isn't any, and that's where there's been a legal review of that, and I don't think it's essentially, as I understand it, set up kind of like a liquidated damages. There's some damages clause that you're paying back. It's not necessarily an employment contract, but it's some language in there that's legally applicable where you can say, yes, you're agreeing to do this, and that's for the attorneys to get straight. I do have one question, because as we talk about this, I think if we can get I guess my suggestion to the board would be, if you can get a general agreement of what you think about is okay, then let us work with the sheriff's office and bring this back to you as a formal program next month. I mean, so that you have all the stuff in front of you. One of the questions I have is, say, I understand if they're at Beaufort County Community College doing BLET, then they probably don't need a vehicle, but what happens if they have to go to Pitt County every day? Are we going to provide them a vehicle? I would think we might, but we would need to clarify that to make sure that the parameters are set up such that, because they would be an employee, a full-time employee, non-sworn, and we just need to fill in the blanks with an overall understanding from the board that you are okay with moving forward like that.
Well, there's another issue that I think is a minor issue that has to do with hours of work. We pay, 196 hours, 12 on, 12 off, and all that kind of stuff. How does his hours going to affect that?
Yeah, I think what we would think about is it would be like an administrative. This person would be on a 2080 cycle, just like an administrative person is, 8 to 5, Monday through Friday, and they would be paid. I mean, it's a trainee role, so they would be paid overtime. If they were in school more than 40 hours in a week, they would be paid overtime because they have to be. They're not an exempt employee. They are a non-exempt employee, so they have to be paid overtime. But that's the way we would look at that. It would be a 8 to 5, Monday through Friday, unless they needed to work on Saturday, and they'd probably be off a day in the week so that we wouldn't run into overtime. But
yeah,
they'd be on a 2080.
Say that community college, because strange things happen out at the community college. Say they decided they weren't going to have classes for a couple of days. This person would come and report into the sheriff's department, pick up some duties there.
The minimum hours would be met, yes.
I think that's in the agreement that I saw in the model agreement. There's always the discretion of the supervisor to say, you will come to work for us and fulfill what we need as the county if you're not in class, and we're going to work you or have you committed for at least 40 hours a week.
You can always sit in dispatch and watch and learn from that.
And that's, now you're all in our plan for the FTO. As they're going through the training as a civilian, the FTO program is utilized during that time. So to fill in those hours, we get credit for those FTO time. Well,
okay.
Y'all got any questions for the chief?
I'm still insisting that the applications go to the personnel department and then to the sheriff's department, but that'll be for the board to work out when you bring it back.
And we appreciate you.
Yeah, so I think the way that works, Commissioner Richardson, would be they're going to open a position. They're going to say, we have one trainee position open. That position gets posted on X day. It stays open for 2 weeks. And anybody who wants to apply for it applies for it. And then we collect those, and they go to the sheriff's office for them to review, just like they do their normal ones. And I think that's kind of the way, that's the way it kind of works now as they have stuff. But I think we can satisfy that requirement.
Okay. So you guys are going to get together and then come back at our next.
I think if the board in general is okay with what they presented conceptually, I think we can put the flesh on it and bring it back to you with some hard stuff.
The only thing I would like, and I'm pleased with the program, but the only thing I'd like to have a number of trainee positions that we allocate for down through the years. I would like to have that. I mean, like he got 3 openings right now. We don't want to put three trainee positions in. I wouldn't want to do that.
Yeah, Commissioner, I think that would kind of have to be left to the sheriff's discretion as to how many he wanted to commit, because I don't think he's going to want, I'm not speaking for you, Sheriff, but if I were sitting in his position and I had 3 vacancies, I wouldn't want to commit all 3 of them. I wouldn't even want to commit all 2 of them, or 2 of them. I may commit 1, because I think I can pick up somebody else with the other 2.
That's my point.
Yes, sir.
So since we're coming back, and I'll go one step further, I've got a detention program that we'll talk to both sides. Because I got the same dilemma in the detention facility as well.
Is it the same number of hours required?
It would be a space for a civilian to do monitoring.
I got you.
That won't be working in the jail proper. I have that ability now at 19 years old to attract those. So our plan is to obviously go to the community college and recruit from, whomever don't want to
complete or while they're going to school, whatever their schedule allows. But unless we make us marketable, we're just doing the same thing every month, trying to survive with recruiting and retention.
Right, okay. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you for your time. Thank you.
Captain Miller.
Good evening, Commissioners.
Good evening.
Where Sheriff's Office is requesting approval, it's requisition 452. It's the amount of $123,690, purchased 3 Durangos. 2 of those were previously in the budget, or in the current budget, and one of those is replacement for a vehicle that was totaled in November, total loss in November. The suspect's insurance has compensated, and that's the approval for the $30,233.72. So you go back to the budget, and that will give us the money to purchase 3 Durangos.
Second. Okay, got a motion, second. Any questions? All those in favor, raise your right hand. You want to go to your next item?
Yes, sir. One of the things we looked at, looking at Sheriff's Office, is our contracts and how can we better those contracts, better our equipment, bring costs down. And one of the things we've looked at is our cellular contract. And I want to bring Linwood McLaughlin up here. He is our IT supervisor, and he is, this is his baby. This is something he's worked hard on, had many conversations with the cellular company, and so I'm going to have him present it and talk to y'all about it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners. My name is Linwood McLaughlin. I'm the Technology Specialist with the Sheriff's Office. We are not currently in a contract with U.S. Cellular, our phone company that we use for the office, but we have gone back and forth with multiple phone companies trying to obtain what's the best price and service that we can get for Beaufort County, and we have decided that we'd like to go with U.S. Cellular at a 24-month contract. The projected contract cost at full staffing for the 75 phone lines that is just for positions that we provide cell phones to the employees, along with our body cam, rockets, and cradle points, all our cell lines combined would be a projected $53,979.60. We are currently paying it, with our current pricing, $67,086.12 a year. So this would be an estimated savings for us in the county of $13,106.52 per year.
So moved. Got a motion to approve the 24-month contract or 2-year contract with U.S. Cellular.
Okay, wait for a second.
Got a second? Okay, we have a second. Now, Hood.
How many, do we get any cell phones, or do we still have to buy the cell phones?
So are you talking in terms of the equipment itself or the
Yeah.
lines? So what we will do under the contract pricing, we are currently getting as our free penny phones when we have an upgrade with U.S. Cellular, iPhone SE 3rd gens. That's comparative to low-end iPhone 13s and Samsung A13s, 14s right now. With this contract pricing, it would move all our existing lines up to iPhone 16s and Samsung S25s, so we get a major equipment upgrade with this as well.
Do we have to pay for the phones?
We will not pay for the phones. On the contract, it does list it, and I'm going to get you what the numbers say, and then I'll point you down to a different line there. The subsidy cost, this is what we would be paying, is $379 per iPhone 16, $500 per Samsung Galaxy S25. Just below that, there's a line that says additional and other terms and conditions. It does say the $500 off Galaxy on government premium plan, that's the subsidy price, and $379 off of iPhone on government premium plan, which is what these lines are moving to. That's what's coming off, so that matches the subsidy price that we would normally be paying.
So really, yes, now, zero.
On the equipment, yes.
All right, I got one more question. I think it's a typo, but I don't know what I'm talking about. On page 192, page 103 of the U.S. Cellular Service Order form terms, it says tax exempt and it says no. Shouldn't that be yes? Aren't we tax exempt? How's that work?
We pay the taxes and then get a refund at the end of the year.
You have to apply for one in North Carolina. Some states that I'm familiar with get a form, you don't have to pay the taxes.
up front. Gotcha. Randy?
I have U.S. Cellular down River Road. There are several places that the calls just dropped. Did U.S. Cellular promise you that you would have flawless reception everywhere in the county?
No promises, and I don't think any cell company could ever promise that. But we did run it similar to FirstNet in terms of coverage. They were very similar to each other. FirstNet was slightly better, but the price difference there was too great to really consider that.
Very good.
But
Anyone else? Okay, all those in favor of the contract, raise your right hand. Thank you very much.
thank you, Commissioner.
Okay, we're down to Homeland Security Grant Program. Chris and DC.
Thank you, Chairman and Commissioners. We're here to request to approve to accept funding to replace our current sonar asset. So a little backstory about this. The grant system for this was in 2023. We just found out in January that we got approved for our 2023 grant. So during this approval cycle, the estimated cost to start with was $52,000. The funding request, when it was approved, we went back and got it rechecked, and it was up to $56,411.47. So we've worked with finance to find where we can get this out of our budget to concur and pull in these other fundings. So we're respectfully requesting your approval to accept the $52,000 for the Homeland Security Grant Program and requesting approval for the applicable budget amendment totaling $4,412 to complete the replacement purchase of one Marine Sonic towfish sonar system.
Motion to approve. Entertain a second.
Second.
Got a motion second. Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion, raise your right hand. Thank you, DC.
Thank you.
The next one is the spray and neuter initiative.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. Here before you tonight working on another initiative that has become available at our Animal Services in the form of a donation from the Beaufort County Humane Society. They have provided $10,000 and have asked that we use that for spay and neuter initiatives for dogs within our county. The way we envision rolling this out is very similar to what we did with Jasper's Wish. If you remember, we came to you back in November with a very similar initiative where this would allow Beaufort County residents to apply for these funds. It's kind of on a first come, first serve. And once that information is taken, they'll be able to select the vet of care of their choice to do the procedure here in the county, and we'll facilitate those funds through the same initiative we did for Jasper's Wish. That program actually worked very well. We used all $10,000 inside of about 30 days. So we had a very good response of that program, and I would like to do the same for this initiative as well. And with that, I'll take any questions.
Okay, got a motion. Is there a second? I've got a motion and a second. Now, any questions? Okay, all those in favor of the spray and neuter?
Spay and neuter? Yep.
Yeah. Expansion? Anyway, it's late.
There
It's
you
late,
go.
Chris.
There you go.
Okay. Raise your right hand.
All right.
Thank you very much. Okay, Anita, we're down to the Washington Elementary School reimbursement number 2.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So we've reached a point in the building and construction of the new elementary school where we're ready to request draw number 2 from the state for our grant funds so that we can pay Wimco Corp. $1,227,542.50. That's the amount of the draw. The grant portion of that is $991,486. The county portion will be $236,056.
Entertain a motion to approve the...
To approve.
Second. Got a motion and a second.
Chairman?
Yes, sir.
I cannot vote for this. This is, all that this board has voted on this $52 million project to do is to write checks. And I don't know what we're getting for our money. Everything I've seen about the project I dislike. The board has subverted the process that requires that certain things be done by general statute and that certain things be done by DPI. None of those things have been done. We're building a school that consolidates 900 children up to the age 3 in one set of buildings. The SNOT patrol alone is going to be more than anybody can handle. And the congregation of small children in schools has to be terrifying for some of them. These schools need to be spread out into elementary schools. Some of this money should have gone to help the Chocowinity schools, which need it. And this is a corrupt project, and I cannot vote to spend one dime on it.
Okay. Any other comment?
Yeah, Hood, I correct you. It's $52,500,000.
Oh, that's right. The land.
Yeah.
Okay, all those in favor of the second reimbursement for Washington Elementary School, raise your right hand. Those opposed? Thank you. All right, we're down to the manager, RCCP Phase 4 Construction Award. Brian?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I'll take you back to September the 9th of 24 when the board accepted the Phase 4 RCCP grant from the state in the amount of $194,166. It had a local match that the board allocated of $16,394, and that was to construct a low-impact development demonstration site at the community college, which consisted of a rain garden and permeable pavement parking area. The project was advertised for bids on February the 7th. They received one bid from Blackwater Environmental. It's my understanding that they were the company that did the work at Jacks Creek. You've probably seen that work they did down there. The project was within the informal construction range. There was an evaluation committee that consisted of Mid-East County and community college staff that met to review that bid, and Mid-East worked with Blackwater to reduce that original bid to $166,463. There's no additional county funding required for this. You have a copy of the bid tab and you have a copy of the draft AIA construction document, and we recommend your approval to move forward with the project.
Entertain a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Any questions of Brian? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Those opposed? Okay. We're down to the planning board appointment, and Katie, you've already explained that has to come from the Chocowinity Township.
Yeah, I pulled the amendment to the planning board, and it does say that they require 6 individuals from each township, or 1 individual from each 6 townships, and 1 that floats. And he actually, when we pulled his address is actually Blunt's Creek, so it's not even Chocowinity. And he's a little bit further down the river than what Chocowinity Township would encompass. And that's what this position needs, is somebody from, it requires rather, is somebody from Chocowinity Township.
Okay. I'd like a word on this. You know, I deal with the planning board, and it has been difficult for the last 5 or 6 years to have a quorum at board meetings. Sometimes, and they don't meet that often. They only meet on demand when they have something to do. And it's still been difficult when they only meet 4 or 5 times a year to have a quorum at the board meetings. I think I voted against this when it was put in several years ago, because the original ordinance having to do with the planning board would take people who were qualified from any part of the county. And I think the key word here is qualified. And I'd like for the board to address this, if you would, at the next meeting, and put us back to where we were before, when we can take qualified people from anywhere in the county that will show up for meetings. And that's my issue in this.
Okay. That's fine.
I mean, I don't, you know.
We would have to vote to change
the ordinance.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, you'll have to vote to change the ordinance.
Policy.
Huh?
It's your planning board policy. It's not, I don't believe it's an ordinance.
No, didn't the ordinance say that people were appointed?
I apologize, you're correct.
Yes, it has to be in the ordinance to work, so yeah, we just need to change the ordinance.
Okay.
Having qualified people is the key word. It don't matter where they come from.
Right.
They need to be qualified.
Right. And we need a quorum.
And we need a quorum.
Yes. Okay, we're down to, the next item is the Beaufort County Community Board of Trustees appointment. Katie?
Yes, sir. There is currently there's a chair position open on the Board of Trustees. You have 2 applicants that have applied and showed interest for this. And we are looking for an appointment from you as a board.
I nominate Deborah Windley.
Okay, we've got nomination for Deborah Windley.
Yeah, I nominate
Well, one of the questions is how are we going to vote on these? Are we going to vote each of these individuals up or down, or are we going to put a pool out and whoever, use that 4-3-2-1 thing? How's this going to work? I think that in the past, we've been advised in situations like this to vote each individual up or down.
I think that's what we need to do. So, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion to second.
Now, I have some comments about the community college before we elect someone to serve on this board. There are some bad things going on out at the community college. The leadership and the board of directors at the community college are simply not doing their job. They have formed an LGBTQ club, which is supported by the administration of the community college and the board of directors. The latest thing that they have done is they hired an attorney on immigration to give them advice. And I've seen the letter, and I think the letter's been pretty well circulated. And what it says, basically, if the sheriff shows up or ICE shows up for the purpose of detaining illegal immigrants, that the director, the president of the community college is to be notified, and he is the only person who can speak to ICE or the sheriff about this particular incident involving illegal immigrants. Well, we know that we've got people in this country who are terrorists. So what if ICE shows up to arrest one of those terrorists? You're in the situation where you have a liberal management and a liberal board of directors at the community college who are doing things that the people of Beaufort County simply don't support. It's not that I'm against LGBTQ. Do whatever you want to, wherever you want to, but don't use public money to push this. And that's what they're doing. And as far as arresting illegal immigrants, what part of illegal don't you understand? Now, this is the board of directors that is supporting this at the community college. We need to be extremely careful who we put on the board of directors. And so with that, we need to vote. That's why I'm supporting Tandy Dunn, because I know that he's conservative, and I know that he'll do the right thing.
And I'd like to say something. I still can't wrap my head around the Beaufort County Community College Foundation taking their private money, which could be used in other ways, and supporting illegals for Beaufort Promise. I just have a real problem with that. And I don't understand why they do it. I wonder if all the members of the foundation actually know that they're doing it. I know some of those people on there. I can't imagine that they know that they are supporting illegals getting free education at a community college and with Beaufort Promise. So, I mean, right now things have changed in this nation. Border crossings are at a 20, 30-year low, and this took no legislation from Congress. All it took was a new president. So, what's it going to take to understand that you're either come through our set of rules and laws that have worked for centuries, or all of a sudden we're going to do things the way the Democratic Socialists want us to do, which is to have open borders, north and south, and in between. Let them come in, and then we'll take care of all of them, which will bankrupt this nation, which is bankrupting this nation.
Okay, with the motion, sorry, Brian.
Yes, sir. So, Mr. Chairman, just relaying you back to your rules of procedures. Just want to make sure you got that, because you did say it. Rule 28, appointments. The board shall use the following procedure to make appointments to fill vacancies in the board itself or other boards or public offices over which it has the power of appointment. The chair shall open the floor to nomination, whereas the members shall put forth and debate names of possible nominees. When debate ends, the chair shall call the name of each nominee and the members shall vote. It is the duty of each member to vote for one appointee for each appointment to be made. So that's out of your rule of procedures, what you've talked about. Just want to make sure that's clear. Also, Commissioner Dunn, you don't serve on any other, because there's a there's a statute that says you can be in one elected office and one appointed office. So you don't serve, you're not appointed to any other offices, correct?
Any other governmental offices?
Right.
That is correct.
Okay, so I think we're good with that. It threw us a little bit when y'all,
Well, yeah, and there's a problem there because I remember distinctly, and I'm not, what you're saying is right, that's what's in the ordinance, our rules of operation, but I know when it's come up in the past that Billy Mayo was the county attorney, and he says you got to vote on each one of them up or down, but that's in conflict with what you just read, which I don't argue with. Yeah.
Yeah, it goes in,
sorry, it goes into more detail when you're talking about chairman and vice chairman, but
Yeah.
this is Rule 28, it talks about appointments.
Okay. Okay.
And in general, I think it's the same way y'all just talked about. I mean, you're going to have two names, and you're going to vote on one name, and you're going to vote on another name. And
Okay, the first name that we have is Deborah Windley. All those, are we not going to vote for the one that's nominated?
You have two nominees.
yes, you have two nominees, so I think what you do is you would say, everybody who wants to vote for this person, raise your hand. Everybody who wants to vote for Mr. Dunn, raise your hand. I think that's what you're getting ready to do, right?
Okay. Everybody that wants to vote for Deborah Windley, raise your right hand. Everybody that wants to vote for John Rebholz, raise your right hand.
Whoa, you don't have a nomination for John Rebholz.
You did.
No.
Okay, that's right.
Nominated John Rebholz.
That's right. His name was in the book. His name was in the book. Okay, all those in favor of Tandy Dunn, Commissioner Dunn, raise your right hand. Okay. Will you take care of that notification, Katie? All right, we're down to, boy, some of these, seems like we've talked about them 3 and 4 times, but I guess we'll have to go through them again. So you want to go with the hurricane assistance report, HUD?
Yeah, I just asked the manager, does he have a complete report, summary report on that?
Yes, sir. I think I emailed this one to y'all, but you may not have seen it. So did get a letter, a copy of the letter that the Sheriff's Office sent to State Emergency Management. They're requesting a total reimbursement of $16,733.84. That was $14,593.17 for personnel, $1,081.69 for travel costs, and $1,058.98 for commodity costs. So that has been submitted to the North Carolina Department of Public Safety Division of Emergency Management, and we're waiting for that to come back.
What was that total again?
$16,733.84.
But how many man-days went into this?
Sheriff, I think you were there for a week. Is that right?
You don't have to repeat your question.
So how many,
Oh, yeah.
he said how many man days did you have?
What was on that, best I recall off the top was 7 to 10 days, and I think it was 7 days.
How many people?
4.
4 people, so you had 28 man-days.
Well, I had to break it up. I had 4 went up there at full time. And then, 2 different times I sent a turnaround trip.
Okay, so 2 times you sent 2 people. Okay, so that's 4 man-days. And then, was it 2 more times you did something else? Just missed that. So
Two
you had,
turnaround trips and 1 assignment.
okay, the assignment was for 4 people for how many days?
7 days sitting here.
7 days, okay, that's close enough. 28 days, 32 man-days.
Now, you may not be updated, but we submitted a emergency management refund, and they have acknowledged receipt of it. We were assigned a mission number, and it's in the process of being reimbursed if it's approved.
Yeah, you were busy talking, but I think that's the $16,000 that you've requested in payment.
My busyness was kind of discussing another matter.
Okay. All right, that takes care of me, I'm satisfied.
And we thank you for sending the help.
And that's all of the county that went up there. Nobody but the sheriff's office went up there.
That is, yes, I had, oh, there you go.
Yeah, no, we had folks that went up with mission numbers under emergency management that we reported several meetings ago.
You've reported that?
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right, okay.
And the mayor and the county commissioner that I was speaking with were very grateful for that.
Mm-hmm.
So I just want to, if I never said that, I do apologize.
Okay, the next item I will let Amanda address as it relates to the ethics.
Now, this is going to be a written opinion on ethics of the conflict with these two commissioners.
Yes.
Serving in the two members. Where is it? Do I have it? In your notebook. Oh, I usually get it in my package. Okay. Well, let me ask you this question. I'll have to read this and bring it back next meeting. But did you receive any direction or advice as to how to do this from any county employee or any county elected official?
No, sir, I did not speak to anyone about this memorandum.
Thank you. We'll take it up at the next meeting.
Okay, the next item is the ethics of the chairman and the vice chairman that accept in meetings.
Mr. President,
Yes.
would you please allow her to explain?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I'm certainly happy to explain. So I drafted a memorandum that was provided to you all via email today, and I think a printed out copy has now been provided to you. I wanted to wait to also review the minutes prior to sending in that memorandum, just to make sure I fully captured what it is that you all were requesting me to do. In that memorandum, I go through and talk about your duty to vote and how that then coincides with your ethical implications as well. And the opinion is ultimately that based on what I have seen, there has not been any ethical violations. That in fact, commissioners are under a duty to vote on all matters unless very certain parameters are in place. And so unless those apply, then you should not be excused from voting. And that's in your memorandum.
Thank you.
Yes, Randy.
Yeah, thank you so much for, I think somebody's on. Thank you so much for that. And, you know, we found out in a parallel, the schools did the same thing, except they just went to the School of Government and found out. And I certainly, this is beyond your scope of what you've been hired to do, so certainly send us a bill. And, you know, earlier tonight, I raised my hand that we would stop frivolous spending, and this is a good example of frivolous spending that needs to stop. This stuff was told by Billy Mayo years ago, and here we are again speaking, I want to flag the tape though, because this is going to come back in 2 years when the election comes up and people are running and they're going to be talking about ethics again. So we'll have this tape flagged and we'll just pull these sheets out and remind everybody that it's not ethical. And in fact, this is something else I found, the school found out, that if the Miss Booth and my wife wanted to run for county commissioner, they could. Now they're not announcing their candidacy tonight, but they would. If the voters say you are going to be a commissioner, they could sit on this board too. Thank you.
Okay, let's go to the next item, ethics of the chairman and the vice chairman.
Wait, I got to get back on that, Randy. Are you sure that you can serve on the school board and the county commission at the same time? He didn't say that.
That's what the School of Government said. No, wait a minute.
No,
what did you say? What did you ask?
I thought I heard you say that you can serve on both boards at the same time.
Yes, they can sit on the be a commissioner at the same time.
No, I don't think so.
That's what the school.
I'm pretty sure you can't.
You can't believe the school of government. It's the last place you go to.
You can't go to an elected position.
But you and your wife can be both on the commissioners, or you and your wife can both be Board of Education. You can't sit on both boards. You can only do one elected position.
Yeah.
But that's what you just said, wasn't it? That we could both be on the same board?
No. That's verboten. On the same board. That's extremely verboten.
I think probably what they said is they can run for county commissioner,
right,
and if they win, they have to give up the school board.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That's what I meant. If they would win the commissioner seat, they have to give up the school board. They can't be on two different boards at the same time. It was so easy, I just thought you would know.
Yeah, I did know.
Okay, Hood.
Okay. let's see, we just talked about, okay, the next one is ethics of the chairman and the vice chairman accepting invitation. I'm gonna keep beating on this horse for a long time, simply because if the chairman, if items are brought to the chairman and the vice chairman or any other commission member for that matter, that involve the commission's business, you have an ethical obligation to present it to the board via the manager or directly to the board. Just because you receive a social invitation because you're a county commissioner and you go somewhere and they talk to you about county business and you make a deal with them or you direct staff to do things a certain way, which has happened in the past, that is unethical. So at the beginning of every meeting, from now on, you're going to be asked, did you have any of these conversations and did you have any of these meetings and did you direct the staff?
Okay.
That ethics provision. And, if you did, you need to make us aware of it, and if you didn't, you need to say no.
I absolutely know what the difference is and when I need to come to the board for approval.
That hasn't worked in the past, frankly.
Well, here again, I would say that my ethics habits, what's funny?
The fact that you're trying to justify.
No, I was going to say that mine stacks up with yours.
No, it doesn't.
Oh, no. You're not in Hood's peer group.
It really stacks up with you, Stan.
No,
yes,
you're absolutely not in either one of our peer groups. No, Frankie. No, fake Frankie, you are not.
All right.
We'll see in the next election.
All right.
Okay, how much you outspend me.
Okay. The next one is the industrial park
zoning.
Zoning.
What are we going to do about the industrial park zoning? The issue has been brought before the board and it has died.
I thought we voted. I thought we had voted on it.
We did not vote to take any action with or against the town of Chalkawinity having to do with zoning on the industrial park south.
So if I could, if I could ask the board to give us another month on that before you decide to take any action. We currently have a client we're dealing with out there, and if you could give us another month.
I'm willing to do that, but we're losing clients because it's not zoned properly.
Are they looking to buy all of it?
I don't want to get into the specifics of the client discussion.
We just don't want the controversy to scare off the client.
Correct. Thank you.
Okay.
All right, Hood, we're down to the ICE funding at the college.
Yeah, well, I've already talked about ICE funding at the college. I put that in there in case I didn't have an opportunity to bring it up before.
All right.
But it is treason in my book when you do what the president of the community college has done, has defied the United States of America on illegals and terrorists coming into the United States with his policy. He has nothing to do with the enforcement of ICE. If ICE shows up on the campus and takes half the student body, he has nothing to do with it. And for him to hire an attorney at the expense of the taxpayers to commit treason, that's offensive to me.
Okay. Tandy, you want to talk about the occupancy tax, lodging tax?
Sure. So recently we received an email from one of our state representatives questioning whether we were interested in a occupancy tax for Beaufort County. Currently, only Washington has an occupancy tax. So I'm just letting people in the community and any visitors to Beaufort County know that, number one, I'm against any taxes. And number two, if you're charged an occupancy tax for an Airbnb, a motel room in Chalkawinity, a hotel room in Bath, or Bellhaven, or even staying on a boat, that you're being scammed and that we do not have occupancy tax for anything that's not in the city limits. Don't pay it, protest it, call somebody else, call the North Carolina Department of Revenue and report those people, because we do not have a occupancy tax outside of the city limits of Washington.
That bill was, proposed bill was pulled by Senator Brinson.
That's correct, but no, I mean, I think Commissioner Dunn is saying, and he's correct, there isn't anything outside of the Washington TDA, so anything out in the county is not. And if they are, then they're doing that in violation.
Okay. you want to go to your next item, ABC officers?
Sure. So every month since I've been elected, I get this report that talks about how much the ABC board has sold at the different locations that we have. And they also report our law enforcement reports. So since January of 2024, and I actually went back a little bit further, we have our ABC law enforcement personnel have only done 2 permittee inspections and 1 seller server training and 2 alcohol educations. That's all. There have been no violations for sell or give to underage, no violations for attempt to purchase by underage, no violations of underage possession, no violation of unauthorized possession, no violation of sell or give to intoxicated, or no violation of any other alcohol-related charges on or off premises. You can't tell me that people aren't buying alcohol at the ABC store. I'll admit it right here in front of everybody. I bought more liquor at the ABC store before I was 21 than I have since. Okay? I have been to the ABC store in Washington 1 time in the last 45 years. But you know, they're not going to there used to be a place on River Road that they sold beer out of that was not legal. There used to be a place right past Jerry's parents that they sold alcohol out of that was illegal. They're not checking none of these folks. They're not doing any underage checking. I got a problem with that, and I'm going to go to the board meeting on Thursday and see if I can question what's going on. As county commissioners, we appoint those boards and the personnel under them that they supervise. I have questions about, and I'm going to question it.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to go to the title search request again.
Yeah, and we're going to the title search request again because I've asked for the title search from the school system. And I've been told I'm going to get it. To date, I have not received that title search. I think it would behoove this board, since one of the commissioners on this board wish such specificity on a deal that kind of went bad, that he receive that title search. And I would like a letter to be sent to the superintendent, or whomever he directs, to send me that title search. Then let me be specific. That title search is for the 4 acres that you guys paid $500,000 for when the school did not know, they did not own the land they thought they owned, because they didn't do a title search the first time.
Did we not have a motion at the last meeting on the title search and it was voted down? It's already been voted down. The vote was 4-3.
Well, I was told by the superintendent at the last budget meeting, which you guys like to have in early February, even though budget begins usually in April and May, that I would receive the title search, and I have not received it yet. Now, if you want to have certain commissioners not get what they're supposed to get just because they are that kind of commissioner, like I am a conservative and you guys aren't. I requested the title search and I'm not getting it. If you want to pull that thing where we're not going to bring this up again, and you don't think a title search is necessary for all of us, some of us want to see these things. Some of us want to know why what happened as it did, so that we won't make that same mistake in the future. You guys want to keep making those mistakes? Fine.
The board has already taken action on it.
You took action. You don't want to see a title search on the property.
You've already said that you could do it yourself, so I don't know. I don't know what you're waiting for.
Do not.
I didn't say yes. You did. You did.
Well, it doesn't matter what I said. I asked for a title search. I have not gotten it. You don't want me to get the title search? Tell the public you don't have any curiosity. You don't care. $500,000? Well, we'll do it.
It's being cleared up. The title search showed what was wrong, so.
Oh, it does?
Yes.
You trust that? Okay. I trust it too. I want to see it, and you don't want me to see it.
It's already been taken action on.
Okay,
you want to go to the trash on the county road?
Yes. I want to go to trash on roads. I'm not saying on county roads. I'm talking about trash across the state. It's the worst I've ever seen. It's been the worst I've ever seen for the last 4 years. It's getting worse all the time. It's bad in Beaufort County. It's bad everywhere. Now, I'm not a state of North Carolina representative. I am a Beaufort County Commissioner. I want to see us do everything we can at this level to take care of the trash. I mean, this, if you're going to take care of this planet, if we're going to be stewards of this planet, one of the things we have to do is keep trash off the road. We really need to have a public that not only would not want to make trash, but would recycle trash. And we're not there yet, but we need to get there. If we can't show the public that we care about the trash on the road, then we will never get to the point that we recycle trash. We talk to the public about reconditioning soil. We keep everything out of the ocean, and we grow stuff, and we save the planet. And we do it at 1,000th of the cost of the new green scam. Okay? I'll be talking about that a little bit later when we talk about Doge. So, I expect all of you to vote in unison that we do whatever we can do. Maybe we set up a committee. I don't know. But it's going to take the county taking an assertive effort. Right now, what I'm noticing, a lot of on the side of the road, and I own property on probably the third busiest road on the south side of the river, Old Blunt's Creek Road, which is the river road on the Old Blunt south side of the river. I am noticing a lot of contractor debris, a lot of it. And to me, it appears that contractor debris is from small contractors, and the debris may or may not be policed properly and restrained when they go down the road. I can't imagine them throwing it out on the side of the road, so they won't have to be troubled with taking it down to where it needs to go. I've sorted through bags, and I'm not finding dresses. I'm finding materials that are like people had to get out of a house quick, so they're just throwing it away. So I say contractor debris, it's also landlord debris. What I'm saying is we've got to do something to stop this. And if any of you guys have any ideas? I have some ideas. Number one, at the sites, I think it would behoove us to ask our site attendants, either at the convenience site or the mega sites once they get built, that they make a note of who's not securing their trash properly, and maybe help them understand that that's what they should do, and if they don't continue to do it, tell our law enforcement to watch them, to watch those sites.
I think there's a provision in that ordinance that West was just in here about securing trash.
Exactly,
and that can be enforced, so you got something to enforce it with.
Yeah.
But let me talk trash just a second, if I may, Stan.
It's also a state law.
It's also a state law?
It's a state law securing your loads.
I know in California, and this was years and years ago, when you loaded a truck in California, the guys climbed up on the truck with a little hand whisk broom, and they swept the railings down on the sides of that truck, because this was back in the 70s and 80s. It was a $300 fine if they could find something as large as a pea on that rail, is what the drivers told me. And they all climbed up on those trucks and swept them down. But let me say this. The answer to a lot of this trash is putting a tax on these things that people are throwing out. You know, if you look, take the stuff you get from the grocery store and look at it, and you will see on just about every container, it says there's so much of a fee for the state of Vermont. There's so much of a fee, and they list the states on there. And you do the same thing in North Carolina, and until you let people start making money out of it, trash is going to keep right on going out the side of the road.
I've noticed Pitt County has a guy out with a truck, maybe just more than one, but they also got a really neat TV commercial talking about secure your load. But I don't think this thing is going to solve itself without having somebody that goes out and does this trash enforcement. Now, we've had a job application for part-time, and I don't think they've had anybody come up and apply for the job. We would probably have to go with a full-time with, equipment and everything. And of course, that's going to add, and that's definitely a budget debate, and we're going to be should be talking about that in the budget.
So, Commissioner Walker, I think that the discussion we've had with Solid Waste Group is that as we move into additional ordinances such as junk cars and junk mobile homes, that there's going to be a more demand, and so it may justify a full-time position relating to that. But we'll have something for you at budget time about that.
Well, also,
Yeah, the sheriff, we could talk to the sheriff about enforcement.
yeah,
As long as I oppose the county police to do it. But if there is a subcommittee that you set up, I don't mind being on that subcommittee.
for trash.
Well, I think it is a necessary
It is.
committee, because I too have been out on the shoulder of the road looking through piles and piles.
Thank you.
And you really got support of the community that I was in, bringing me bags and bags of.
No, he just right about throwing it.
I think they were very pleased to see the sheriff out.
Well, let me remind some of these people that have memory losses from time to time. We've had a committee, and the two people at both ends made a motion and a second to do away with that committee.
What committee?
We used to have a solid waste committee that was meeting, and then we did away with that. And we talked about trash.
That's a different kind of trash.
No, it's trash. It's part of the problem.
That was legal trash. We're talking about illegal trash.
Yeah. Well, anyway, you want to go to your resolution?
Oh, well, I have a question. No, not yet. Sheriff, you may know this. How much, what's the maximum we can fine people?
1,500 was the last one.
1,500?
Yeah, that's if the weight of the trash was over a number of pounds, like a sofa or refrigerator.
Okay. And it's safe.
That's state law now.
It's state law. But as per ordinance, we can do that as well.
Don't you recall seeing litter cost maximum fines 1,500?
No, I sure God don't. Not on this day.
Well, they were on the side of the road, on Shoulder Road years ago.
Yeah, but it was 250. Back there when we were out there with Wiley Hill, it was 250.
Well, I'll use your memory though, but I think they did have a 250, less than pounds. So our county really does need to take an aggressive look at the trash that is, and to your point, Commissioner, is it's like tenants being kicked out of the house, and that is a fact, because when they're piled up on the roadside, it starts with the curtains, the first thing, and then it goes all the way to the floor. It's just like they're just spilling it out of the truck, offloading it as if it's the way they load it. So,
And it's hard to find any mail in there, because you're probably going to get the mail of the tenant, and it's probably landlord throwing it out.
And River Road is the most worst in Magnolia School Road area. Is where I worked many weeks.
Yeah, you did, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay,
Well,
Brian,
I think it's important that we watch it, we be ready for it, we try to see if there's any way we can find people as much as we can. HUD wants to do a deposit on things, I like that idea, but that'd have to be statewide. But I think we need to do whatever we can, because we're gonna have trash on the side of the road, we're not recycling it, it's spilling into the waterways. I mean, it does. From the road, it will go into the creeks and it will get into the waterways. And we don't need that. Okay, resolution.
yes,
Let me get it up.
we've already got the resolution in the book.
Well,
Have
that's fine.
you got yours?
I will have mine. I'm the one having to do it, and I'm the one speaking. Okay, we're in a golden era in America. We are in a golden era here in America where we've got a president and his cabinet and his Doge committee, which is a third-party semi-government committee, and they're doing things that Congress can't do or won't do. They are designating where they find waste, fraud, and abuse, and they're going at it with as if they have a sledgehammer. Now, that's creating problems. We know it, they know it, and they're going to probably at some point use a scalpel to mold it back into some kind of efficient governing method. But the problem still remains. There are hundreds of billions of dollars being wasted every year in America. It's a very popular issue. 70% of Americans want something done to take care of this waste, fraud, and abuse. They're not concerned about the sledgehammer approach. They just want to see something done right now. And my resolution speaks to that, and we can talk about it afterwards, but I'll read the resolution now. Resolution in support of the Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE, whereas President Donald John Trump, the 47th President of this representative republic, was overwhelmingly elected in the 2024 presidential election, where he received a clear mandate, as Republicans now control the legislative and the executive branch of government, and whereas the federal government is $36.5 trillion and climbing in debt, and the interest to support that crippling debt over $1 trillion per annum, and whereas the political class of these states united is roundly proved to be completely incapable of governing in the proper and prudent administration of the public's assets and the public's treasury, and whereas the resounding appeal of President Trump is that he is not a member of the inept political class, far too long lurking about our United States government, and that Mr. Trump clearly sees our republic's future path and therefore is making giant political strides to set this constitutional republic on its clear path to government solvency. And whereas President Trump had the supreme foresight to understand that Congress could not make decisions fast enough to lay the groundwork for the necessary momentum in discovering the rampant waste, fraud, and abuse in our federal system of government, and therefore, due to President Trump being cloaked in immense immense executive power, which enables him to govern by executive order to discover the waste, fraud, and abuse in funding, thus legislated and appropriated by Congress and allocated for the executive, in most cases, to constitutionally administer. And whereas President Trump has sought the advice and services of the government agent Elon Musk, a highly capable innovator and a general of American industry, to administer the recently created Department of Governmental Efficiency, DOGE, a third-party agency tasked with discovering waste, fraud, and abuse in our federal system of government. Therefore, let it be resolved. Beaufort County's commissioners objectively believe that all levels of governments, local, state, and federal, must govern within their means of gathering a public treasury, and that until the United States Congress can sustain the political means to eliminate all waste, fraud, and abuse by their immense legislative powers to do so, Beaufort County's commissioners unambiguously support the Trumpian concept and origination of the Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE, and greatly anticipate its incredible part in helping the United States of America's federal government become impeccably solvent. So, and I want this, once it's passed, I want it to be sent to the North Carolina congressional delegation and the administration of President Donald John Trump.
You want to make a motion?
Yeah, it's a motion.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any
I've got one question. Is it sent to the recipients just like we're seeing? For instance,
No.
does it say at the bottom, written by Beaufort County Commissioner Stan Deathridge? Is that included on there? Because I think that's very important that the author be given credit. I mean, because some people would read this and go, "Oh yeah, that's good. He's doing good," and then some people maybe not so. And I think he needs credit. So if it's not included, I would like to add a line saying written by Commissioner Stan Deathridge.
Already on there.
But if it, that's what I say. If it's sent just like this, we're okay. It's on there. Is that right?
There is, when I reread it, there's one or two errors I found.
I just want to make sure the italicized.
Well, there are a few errors I'd like to correct, and my motion would be to correct that.
I just want to make sure the italicized paragraph thing at the bottom is included.
I think you're going to get your wish.
Good.
Does anyone else have a question or a comment? Okay, all those in favor, raise your right hand. Those opposed? Okay. Katie, you want to read us into closed session?
The motion is needed to go into closed session under NCGS 143-318-11A6 to consider the qualifications, competence, performance, condition, and appointment of a public officer or employee or prospective public officer or employee.
Okay, I need a motion. I need a second. Okay, all those in favor go into closed session, raise your right hand.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I need a motion to come out of closed session.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor, raise your right hand. Okay, there is no further action.
Make a motion, we adjourn.
I have one thing before we adjourn.
Okay.
On this 2-minute thing, which not gonna take 2 minutes. The budget meeting with the cameras behind us and nobody could see who was, or nobody could see who was talking, we don't need to do that again. That was a good experiment. I don't have a problem.
At the airport.
At the airport. It was a good experiment. I don't have a problem with experimentation, but let's just say this one didn't work. Try something different.
Yeah, I'd like to also do a commissioner comment on what Hood's saying. We just meet here. We got a perfect place to meet. I mean, it works. It's more comfortable here. There's a larger space. We don't need to go anywhere else. Just meet here. I can't see another reason why we would go there.
Okay, we got a motion.
Let's do adjourn.
Out of second. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Thank you.